Alright, welcome everybody to another BDA Boxing Podcast, Mega Edition, on this Saturday, the 17th of February. Hope everyone is doing well. Thank you everyone for joining us. And by the way, if you want to join us on the panel, go to Google Hangout and send us an instant message via the email address that you see on the top of your screen. boxingdebate@hotmail.com. That's boxingdebate@hotmail.com. First time panelist, I do need your email so I can send you the invite, and it's only one time. After that I have your email and I can send you the invites whenever you want or whenever I want. Even if you guys don't want on, I put the pressure on people to come here. Man, there's a lot to talk about. We're probably gonna go on until 8:30 because I do want to catch the Caleb Plant fight that's on the undercard of the Ortiz-Alexander card. Then of course we have Brandon Rios versus Danny Garcia. I mean, I don't know, you never know what could happen. It is boxing, although Danny Garcia did look bigger than I anticipated. And of course on that undercard as well, Roland Gavril takes on David Benavidez for the second time, off of their controversial close fight that they had, I think last year. And man, things got a little heated in the last press conference, so we're gonna see what happens there. And so there you go, you got two good fights. The Ortiz-Alexander fight starts at 8 p.m. Eastern time, but before that we do want to talk about the fight that we just saw, Groves versus Eubank Jr. It was a British derby, and it was receiving a lot of hype. A lot of people were looking forward to it. I know I had to cover it because a lot of people were interested in it, but I mean, in my mind it was more of a local fight. I mean, it was a domestic fight, although both guys are proven, well, Groves more than Eubank, that they have good skills. And now Groves takes that prestigious, coveted IBO belt. And if you can't see or sense that I'm being sarcastic, you got a lot to learn, and I will teach you. You will learn. Alright, first of all, want to say hi to everybody in the chat room. Shout out to Jehovah Mixey, Boxing Battenberg, Michael Stock, Pavel, the Mr. Coxey, Aiden Morrison, Akuma's Deception, German Persian, Ben87, Precise Puncher in the house, the Shepherd of Sons. And I gotta tell you, every time I look at that name, I'm gonna steal it for an album one day, like a hard metal, heavy metal album or something. Shout out to Mark Funk, shout out to Nicola Ferrari. The comments are going fast, there's a lot. What are people saying? Let's see. Groves did it, says Mr. Coxey. Michael Stock says the pundits are making all kinds of excuses, laughing my fucking ass off. Aiden says, you called it like normal, Precise. Yeah, and that's true. Early this week, Precise said that Groves was gonna school Eubank, and I was a little dubious. You know, it's like, I don't know. I thought Eubank's good inside fighting was gonna take a toll on Groves, and let me tell you, he put up a good fight. But Precise was right, man. Just not seasoned enough yet for this caliber of action. Michael Stock said he had a 12 rounds to nothing for Groves, or 11-1 at the most. Brandon White says Roman Gonzalez was a big hype job from HBO. Brandon, I think you're gonna find that a lot of people are gonna disagree with you on that one. Precise says he had it 11-1 for Groves. Aiden Morrison says Eubank and Wilder should be dance partners. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that. We'll get to that. Avery plays bass. Shout out to Avery. Says, what a disappointing fight all the way around. I don't know. I thought it was a pretty good fight. Roman Gonzalez says Michael Stock was an elite fighter. How long before he went on HBO? The German Persian says, Nicola, they like abs. Who likes abs? Who likes abdominal muscles? Who's talking about that? Kaiser Koba, shout out to Kaiser, says 8 rounds to 4 or 9-3 for Groves, being very fair. Steven Scleros says all Eubank did was foul coward style. Coward style. He's put the word in there referring to Andrew Ward, but not as good as at fouling. Eubank would have been KO'd last round if Groves had 2 hands. Michael Stock says I'm sure Groves took it easy on him. Alright, listen, the chat room is moving fast, it's going fast. can't keep up with it. But again, if you guys want to join us, you know the drill. Alright, what else do we got here? Alright, you know what, I'm guessing I got Corruption on the line waiting, so I'm gonna get to him right now. And hopefully Precise wants to join us as well, because I want to get his thoughts on the fight that he called this past Wednesday on the midweek show. Alright, and I mean, let me tell you something. I mean, you know, Precise called it, and I'm looking at Eubank. He did a good job late in the fight in putting pressure, but his technical deficiencies really did him in. If you notice with Eubank, he has all the makings of a good fighter. Good agility, hand speed, reflexes. He's got those long arms, so he has the physical equipment to get it done. He just couldn't get it done. Just couldn't do it. And I gotta wonder if you know, what would have happened if he had a different trainer. I'm pretty sure that's gonna be the excuse all around nowadays. It's like, oh, you gotta change trainers, man, if you only had a trainer. Which is true. I mean, if he did have a good trainer, maybe things would be different. But also, it was that technique, man. There was a disparity in technique. Again, Eubank was staying in there in terms of speed and defense. Notice that Groves wasn't hitting him at will. If he wanted to catch him with the right hand, he really had to work for it. But as far as that, as far as Eubank putting on consistent offense, nah, too wild, man. He looked like Ricardo Mayorga in there. And that's the other thing that frustrated me, because Eubank has long arms. So he could have jabbed his way on the inside. I mean, it reminded me a lot of the Luis Arias versus Daniel Jacobs fight. You know, Luis Arias has good technique, he has good physical gifts, but he just didn't have the experience to really push Daniel Jacobs. He was good enough to survive for 12 rounds and not get beat up, but just not enough to even come close to winning. And I thought it was the same thing with Groves, although Eubank did put on a good offensive rally at the end. And of course, Groves now came out and said that he dislocated his shoulder. But Groves played the matador role to a T. He kept Eubank turning. When Eubank did get close, he would clinch. And Aiden Morrison, who's in the chat, made a good point. He said that every time Eubank dips a little bit, Groves is gonna lean on him and clinch and pivot away. And that's what he was doing all night long. You know, Eubank gave him those opportunities. He gave him those opportunities, and Groves capitalized. So now what's next for each guy? Well, yeah, of course, Groves moves on to the final of the Super Middleweight tournament, but there's larger implications really here if you think about it. I mean, let's look at the Super Middleweight rankings as per Ring Magazine, and we looked at these briefly during the week, and as you can see here, the division is pretty much wide open. I mean, Duran Brammer, who will be fighting also, he's in the number 10 position. David Benavidez, who will be taking on Gavril in a rematch of their fight, of their first fight obviously, which was a close one. And Benavidez, again, another guy who has all the physical gifts to make something happen. But, you know, when it comes to work rate, when it comes to being in shape, it looked like either he had trouble making weight for the first Gavril fight and that affected his work rate, or maybe he just didn't train properly. I don't know. Anthony Durrell and Andrew Durrell, the consummate underachievers. I mean, these two guys, all the talent in the world. And when I say talent, I'm talking physical talent. Hand speed, power, agility, reflexes. It's been 14 years since they came out of the Olympics. And what have they done? Anyway, right, let's quickly go. James DeGale, who might still be able to... You know, again, what cost him against Truex, let's face it, James DeGale is insanely more skilled and talented than Truex. But, you know, he just looked like he didn't train, didn't take Truex seriously, you know, that type of shit. Caleb Truex, the aforementioned. Chris Eubank Jr., who just lost, who still needs a lot of seasoning if he wants to take over the division. Callum Smith is number 3. And like Cameron Gillion pointed out during the midweek podcast, I mean, really, is he really the number 3 guy in there? George Groves, who made a, you know, he beat Eubank, but then again, a lot of people weren't that high on Eubank, so I mean, what does that really say about him? It says that he's a level above Eubank, but when it comes to overall pound for pound, you know, how good is he really? And then Gilberto Ramirez, who I don't understand what he's done to deserve being number one. So there you have it, guys. That is the division at the moment, and so, you know, there's no, it's wide open. Chris Eubank alluded to James DeGale in the post-fight commentary, and so he probably still wants that fight. It's a money fight for him. Probably DeGale would rather, you know, rematch Eubank mentioned Truex, not DeGale. He mentioned Truex, and of course Truex has that IBF title, if you count titles, by the way, and so that would be a good comeback fight for him. But I mean, everyone else is gunning for Truex. In fact, who was it, Anthony Dirrell or Andre Dirrell, that already beat Truex? So he's like Carlos Baldomir back in 2006. I mean, everybody knows it's an easy win, or relatively easy win, I should say. And for a free title, essentially it's a free title. So everybody wants that. DeGale, I'm pretty sure, wants Truex again. You guys let me know in the chat if that rematch is happening. So, wide open division. Precise punches errors. Uzcategui could be the best. He could be. He showed a lot of improvement since what was the guy who he lost to on HBO a couple of years ago? Kova, European guy. Let me tell you something. By the way, I don't know if people are saying, BDA, why do you keep forgetting names? Let me tell you something. You get at my age, all the boxing I've seen, the names all sort of start mixing together, and it's just a blur at this point. I still remember the guys from back 15, 20 years ago, and the old-time greats, I can remember their names, but the new guys... Matt Kovarov was his name. Yes, so Uzcategui lost to him, but he's been making some great strides since then, so he could make something happen, and apparently he's going to be rematching Dirrell, so let's keep an eye on him. Catchnelo Give me my fight. Shout out to Catchnelo, says DeGale is not a bum. No, of course he's not. But now the question is whether he's shot. And by the way, I gotta do this every time I look up. First of all, I don't know. You guys tell me, when you log on to Google, well, not necessarily Google log in, but when you search something on Google, who decides what's the first picture that comes up? Because I've said it before and I'll say it again. Every time I put what's his name, James DeGale. All right, and I'm gonna put the picture up. So you write James DeGale, and those of you who have seen the podcast before know what's coming up. That's the first picture that comes up when I write James DeGale on YouTube. I mean, on Google. Look at that. The forehead looks enlarged. It's almost like they took it with a fisheye lens or something. He's got those wide open eyes. He's got a gap in his teeth because that was after the Badou Jack fight where Badou Jack popped two of his teeth off. So he looks like a bum. Like a homeless guy. A vagabond. A street urchin. And I don't know who came up with that photograph. I mean, who decides? And also, because I'm reading that Manny Pacquiao might be taking on Mike Alvarado, which is really, you know, I mean, Pacquiao at this point, he deserves to fight whoever he wants, but it's really a step down. Now look at Mike Alvarado. The first picture that comes up is his mugshot. I mean, I don't know who's in charge of this. They're not showing respect to the fighters, and I'm going to do something about this. That's right, BDA is going to do something about this crusade mode. Michael Stock says, DeGale is a 6-round fighter who fights for 1 minute a round. That's true. Avery plays bases. Matt Kovarov was supposed to fight Triple G before he fought Andy Lee. That would have been a great fight. And what did happen to Matt Kovarov? I mean, listen, I know I'm going all over the place, but by the way, Corruption to Boxing, I sent you the invite. I think maybe if you're busy, let me know, or if not, just make sure to log on and whenever you want. But yeah, Kovarov, I gotta wonder what happened to the guy, because he used to be rated pretty high, and he was a high-level amateur, very high-level amateur, and he lost to Andy Lee. And it's not like he was losing in the fight, really, but he just got caught. And what the fuck is this? Sorry, guys, I'm taking care of something. So yeah, I don't know what happened to Kovarov, but I'm gonna check him out right now. Matt Kovarov. Let's check him out on the BoxRec, because it's really interesting. Where do these guys go? I mean, they're high. They're on HBO. He had a good win against Uzcategui. Okay, so I'm looking at the record. I'll put it up. Might as well put it up. So you can see there, he beat Uzcategui in 2014. Then he lost to Andy Lee. Man, that was already 4 years ago. Almost 4 years ago. And since then, he's fought As you can see, subpar opposition. What? He's still at middleweight. Who knows what'll happen? Let's keep going with the comments here. They're going by fast. Kyra Johnson says 10-2 Groves. Michael Stock says his friends had a 10-2 to Groves. Kyra Johnson, and I was being nice to Eubank. Reverse Lee says Matt fought 2 or 3 times since 2016. Thank you, Reverse. Just check that out. And yeah, the opposition is really lacking. So that must mean there's like confidence issues there of some sort that he needs to deal before he jumps back in against a tough. Or maybe nobody wants to give him a big fight. I don't know. Kiwi Boxing, shout out to Kiwi Boxing, says, yeah, Pac-Man is confirmed for Alvarado. Ugh. Shout out to Koran Brett, who says, laughing my ass off. Aiden Morrison says, Google Adrian Broner BDA back out thugging again. Wow, what happens if I Google Adrian Broner? What photograph is gonna be in there? By the way, we gotta get to a lot of things fast because I want to watch the fights at 8. So at the latest, we're gonna have to log off at 8:30. So I should really stop wasting time. I just checked out Adrian Broner, and the first picture that comes up is a picture of him in the ring. So there's no comedic value in that one. I'm pretty sure someone's gonna get to it now that I mentioned it. Tubes, shout out to Tubes, says Sigmund. Ha 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 ha. I guess he was referring to somebody, another comment that you can see. Brandon White, shout out to Brandon, says, so whoever loses between Golovkin and Canelo will be a bum. Well, who said that? Who's saying that in the chat room? Is somebody saying that Golovkin Canelo is going to be a bum? Michael Stock says, did you guys see his hand wraps? I didn't think they would fit in the boxing glove. Tube says, Sigmund fought Roy Jones Jr. Yes, time goes quicker the older we get. Squee Box. Oh, you said it, man. Brandon White says, Usyk versus Gassiev will be a bum, whoever loses. Koran Brez, I'd watch it again though. Precise Puncher says Usyk versus Gassiev will not be a barroom brawl. Alright, Precise, if you want to come on the chat, let me know. I mean on the Hangout, let me know in the chat and I'll invite you. But if not, I got a lot to say about the fight, about Eubank-Groves. I mean, yeah, by the way, Eubank, not Eubanks. I don't know why I keep saying Eubanks. Some people were saying that as well. And but that's okay. So I gotta invite Precise here, and Precise really let us drop some knowledge on last week podcast, on the Wednesday podcast, and he told us that the Nazis were the first to use amphetamines for warfare, in order to stay awake and be more active. And he says that they were using steroids too, and that Hitler was in very good shape. He said, and I quote, he was shredded. So I gotta wonder, who would have won between Hitler and, let's say, Stalin? I mean, I know he would have kicked Churchill's ass. I mean, the guy was in a wheelchair, for Christ's sakes. But, or who was that? Roosevelt. I always get them confused, Brits and Americans. But definitely him and Stalin, although Stalin looked big. He looked a little chubby, but maybe he had that type of strength that you have to watch out for there. And Hitler, of course, man, you saw his speeches. The guy was on something. He had to be on something. Speed, ecstasy, I don't know, man. But you can't have that type of passion. Screaming, sweating. And then, of course, there's the whole starting a world war thing, which really, I think that damaged his reputation. I know it's a controversial stance to take, but I really think he, the World War, he shouldn't have pulled the trigger on that one. Alright, let's see. Hamed, shout out to Hamed, says, credit to Groves, awful fight for 11 rounds. Eubank got exposed, but I wasn't impressed with either guy. Both the guys show that they're very beatable. Yeah, I can agree with that. But, and that's the other thing. Groves didn't land as many shots as he could have. Or as he... he was landing right hands here and there, but not enough jabs to... enough jabs to take the fight. And really, again, Eubank looked wild. He didn't come in behind the jab. I gotta wonder what's gonna happen with him. And I'm curious to see. Normally, I don't care what the press says after a fight, but in this case, I want to see what they have to say about who they're gonna blame for this one. They're gonna blame his father. Are they gonna blame him? Are they gonna say he was overrated? I also want to get should check who was, because Precise told me during the week that Eubank was a favorite coming into the fight, and I'd like to know what the odds were yesterday or coming in today before the fight. Hamed says that Groves was holding too much. Yeah, that's the other thing. He was holding too much. That's what I said on Twitter. I said he employed the Kovalev versus Ward defense, which is if a guy got close, just grab him real quick and put his arms in a vice and don't let go until the ref stops you or separates you. And even the referee warned him, but he never took any points away. Pavel says that the press conference is live right now. Michael Stock says that Eubank had nothing for Groves, that's why. That's the other thing, man. I'm telling you, this Eubank has all the speed. He has the power, agility, but he needs to work on that technique. Close his shots more, be more compact, work behind the jab. He could really, I'm telling you, he could make things happen in this division, which is, again, wide open. But for some reason, he just chooses not to. I mean, he does. It's not. Sorry, I should rephrase that. It's not that he's choosing not to. It's just that he can't. And Groves, for all intents and purposes, I mean, you take a look who he's been in there against. He didn't fold under pressure when Eubank was pressuring him. And credit to Eubank too for really trying to push the pace in the last few rounds, but he just couldn't get anything done. By the way, Corruption in Boxing and Precise. I've sent you the invites. They're on the Google Hangout. So if you want to come in, do so. And I'm gonna keep talking until I hear another voice.
I'm on.
Oh, you're on. Since when have you been on?
About 5 minutes.
The fuck? Okay, that's. Hold on. You don't have an avatar. I don't. All I see is black.
You know.
You like coming in undercover, eh? Camouflaged, stealth mode.
A little bit.
Yeah. All right. For first of all, thank you for being here. Precise as always. I always appreciate your input. And again, you were right. Groves got the win against Eubank, and he really made Eubank look foolish in there. What are your thoughts now that the fight is over?
Well, thanks for having me, first and foremost.
Always, always.
I never understood the Eubank hype. I mean, I understand where it came from, but there was no substance behind it, and, you know, he got exposed. It is what it is. I don't know what else to say, really.
Well, I mean, do you think, as I was mentioning before, that I think Eubank has the potential to become better than what he showed tonight? But, I mean, do you agree with that, or do you think he's peaking at this point?
I think everybody has the potential to get better, who's, you know, in their prime still. But he would need a major attitude adjustment, and I don't know if it's possible to humble the man, you know what I mean? Because even tonight when he had a chance to show some humility, he raised his hands up and acted like he actually had won the fight when he barely won a round, you know what I mean? So,
well, on the one hand, I can understand when fighters do that, you know. Marquez too was one of those guys. Even when the fight was like against Bradley, even though it was clear he lost, he still put up his arms as if he won. But like you said, it's that ego, you know. But you're right. I mean, is the ego big enough to make him improve, or is it too big and that will prevent him from improving? I guess we'll have to see. Do you think the media is going to start blaming the trainers now?
I'm not sure. I think they're going to act like it was competitive and close and Groves nicked it, or, you know, like he put up a good account of himself, Eubank, that is, and I don't know, but they're definitely going to be in damage control. The corner definitely needs to be blamed. I mean, even the cutman was just horrendous. Couldn't stop the bleeding. His hands were shaking. You know, this is something I noticed a lot with these cutmen who really should have nerves of steel, in my opinion. Because if your cutman, his hands are shaking, that communicates to the fighter, who obviously feels it, that there's something really wrong going on, and maybe the cut is worse than he thinks it is. It's just terrible. Terrible corner, terrible preparation. But we knew all this about Eubank. He's just not serious.
Well, not everybody, man. I mean, listen, he was a favorite according to the odds. Are you aware of what the odds were yesterday?
Yeah. Eubank was, the most popular bet was 6-4, I believe. Sorry, 4-6.
Okay.
So if you put $4, you would get $6. You get $10 back, right? If you put $4 down. So plus 150, I believe that's what that is.
Plus 150.
Minus
okay.
150.
Oh, minus. Yeah, minus
Yeah.
for
I'm
you.
confused. Yeah, minus 150.
And that's the thing. You made a good point about
The other way around.
Okay. You made a good yeah, okay, minus 150 for Groves. You made a good point about the cutman, because these guys, you know, the cutman is it's you know, there's only two guys there. I mean, three total, right? Like the trainer, the assistant trainer, and the cutman. You can't have four, you can't have five, so every guy counts in there. And it seems to me, this is the thing about boxing, is anybody can become a trainer. I mean, I'm not saying anybody can become a good trainer, but officially anybody can become a trainer. Just pay your dues or whatever, and boom, you're in. You put a towel over your shoulder, you're a trainer. And the same thing applies for cutmen. There's a lot of guys out there that don't know what they're doing. And now that you mentioned that Eubank's cutman was shaking, reminds me of a story of a couple of years ago on ESPN. I think it was on ESPN. One guy had a huge cut, just awful. And the trainer, the cutman looks at it when the guy comes back, and he goes, "Ah, shit, that's a fucking bad cut." I'm thinking, why would you say that out loud, you fucking idiot? But that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, some of these guys don't know really what they're doing, man.
They need some surgeons in there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they need a guy with an MD at the end of their name. Oh, we got Corruption in Boxing in the house. Corruption, how are you, man?
Hey, Mr. BDA, a man of forgiveness, a man of compassion, a man of reason, I hear.
Well, that seems to be the rumor going around, but yes, I can be benevolent when I want. Why not? Actually, I am benevolent.
No. Good.
I'm a good guy, and that's sometimes to my own detriment. I'm telling you.
I was going to ask you, Mr. BDA, if I could borrow your girlfriend for the weekend, you know, Robert Redford style.
What?
And, when I return her,
yeah. What was the name of the movie? Indecent Proposal. Yeah.
I cannot promise. You know, when I return it to you, I cannot promise that arse won't be gaping like a tennis ball.
Jeez, Louise, man, you gotta. This is a family show, man. You can't make those type of jokes here. All right, but let's get back to boxing, man. Like, first of all, thank you for being here, Corruption. You're from. Well, yeah. Did you watch the fight first of all?
Yes.
And what are your thoughts on the fight? Everything you hoped for? Surprised? Not surprised?
You know, I mean, Mr. BDA, as I told Precise a couple of days ago, there's nothing more satisfying distribution of wealth from the casuals to my willing and deep pockets. And that is exactly what transpired today. I cleaned up with four bookmakers in the UK, placing like €100 bets equivalent, just sort of spread betting on not even taking a hedge position because I was so confident what would transpire. I was tempted for a Groves. I thought better against that. I thought maybe, and as I posted on my video, I did an hour breakdown, Mr. BDA, very in depth. I said 8 rounds to 4. It's just a complete mismatch of skill, technique, ring craft, experience. But I was slightly concerned about the odds. I thought it was almost indicating towards the pre-populated scorecards, and hence a rubber. But fortunately, Eubank Jr. He adhered to exactly what I thought he was going to do. Completely inept as a fighter. His strategy was just that. He was a man consumed by emotion. You know, he talks about how he's emotionless. Nope, not the case at all. His objective was to knock George Groves out, and hence, you know, he clearly exemplified. He's got no boxing ability at long range, even at mid range. The only skill that I saw from Eubank Jr. was the occasional counter punching he did, actually from sort of long mid range. But then it comes down to probability. If you throw 10 hooks, you're about to land one of them. So I give him the benefit of the doubt. You know, he was a piss poor man's Antonio Margarito. His tactics was just to try and bum rush him, get him up on the ropes. But you know, his work on the inside, smothering his own punches. George was able to neutralize him quite quite easily, as he should have done. It was the correct tactic. So,
well, let me ask you this:
not
were
a-
you like, were you
What?
in? Yeah, go ahead. Okay,
No, please, no, you were going to ask a question.
yeah, I was going to ask, were you at least impressed a little bit with Eubank and his defense? Because he did show an ability to remain quite slippery in there. It's not like Groves could hit him whenever he wanted.
You know what it is, Mr. BDA? Like, George Groves, at long range, it's difficult to hit a man like Chris Eubank Jr. from long range because he's athletic, we know, he does have the ability, if he wants, to shift in and out quite quickly. So George Groves' scoring chances was very similar to Jamie Cox. George broke down Jamie Cox when he broke him down to the body when Jamie Cox was coming into range. So George would fire counters to his body, and that's how he broke him down, paving the way for a knockout body shot. So George, that's what he was trying to do here. So Eubank's defense at that long range is good because he's athletic, he's fresh, he's bobbing and weaving a little bit. So, but when he's coming into range, because he wants to constrict that room very quickly, pin George up. So George's ability to pick him off with the jab and the right hands and sometimes the left hooks was when he was picking up his feet and coming into range, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, very good.
That was the majority of his scoring shots.
Yeah, very good points, man. And now now that we saw what happened, and we saw, like you said, Eubanks and his limitations, and in hindsight, the people that were picking him to win are gonna be scratching their heads saying, "What the hell just happened?" Again, you predicted this, and I gotta ask you because the reason why I thought Eubank had potential was because he had shown some good things against the limited opposition he had fought so far. But what else? Why was there so much hype on him other than on the performance he showed in the ring? Because it really seemed like the British media was pushing this guy as if he was already the number one super middleweight in the world.
Well, from what I understand, and I'm not the expert here on this, but he was doing a lot of TV appearances on ITV, and he was being heavily promoted. And when you serve somebody up tailor-made opponents, and as I keep always repeating this, you have a huge casual boxing audience in the UK, people who don't know how to score fights, they don't know what they're looking at. It is what it is, man. The majority of UK fans are dumb. They'll buy whatever you serve up. I'm not saying they're dumb people, but they're dumb boxing fans, what I mean? So, get mad, I don't care.
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, go ahead.
For me, Eubank just, I don't know, man. He was just produced to look good against a certain level of opponent, and I just didn't understand this whole narrative of him improving as a fighter when he never fought another Billy Joe Saunders. He fought a bunch of come forward punching bags, then he fought Billy Joe, and then he went back to fighting punching bags. So I didn't really understand this whole narrative of where all these improvements are and what they actually are. And it just felt like this whole narrative was being crafted because maybe he had this contract with ITV and his dad is a controversial but popular figure, and they were just looking to cash in on it's the Adrian Bronner effect, what I mean? It's like he's the British Adrian Bronner, except he's dedicated and he tries, what I mean? He tries hard. But he's just he's a bum technically. Like, he's a tough dude, don't get me wrong, and he tries, but as far as a boxing brain and technical ability, he's a poor man's Sean Porter. He's a bum.
And also, Mr. BD, the arrogance surrounding the entire camp, they're not prepared to bring in any high-profile personalities. The only learning curve that Eubank Jr. experiences is from sparring. He's not getting any, because of personality clashes with himself and other trainers who have tried to come in. Chris Sr. seems to think that his son has the ability, has just an amazing capacity to learn almost autonomously, which is absolute nonsense. You can only learn from your father a certain extent. His father was a specific type of fighter, so how else are you going to be learning? You can only really learn from the sparring partners he has, but also we don't know what sort of environment he spars under, whether he dictates all of the terms. We just don't know how hard they go at it in sparring. He can post all these. He's just trying to infiltrate, and it's just pure propaganda that he does all of this and that. But in actual fact, he's not learned absolutely anything.
Mm-hmm.
Ego maniacs. There's no humbleness. There's not a case that, look, they say a wise man understands his limitations,
mm-hmm.
and these lot don't. They really do need to bring in a specialized trainer. Chris Senior needs to be out of that equation. Focus on being his manager. Focus on the economics, the finances. He shouldn't even be in the ring or in the gym.
Yeah, man, because listen, most of these parent fighter relationships, I mean, some of them have some success, mostly, and his father had some success. Trinidad and his father went a good long way, but it might not be, Eubank, the Eubanks, I should say, both of them seem to be like control freaks. And like you said, it's that, Precise mentioned that too, the ego, about whether if it's a big enough ego to improve, okay, then it's a good weapon to use. But if it's too big that it prevents you from improving, it reminds me of David Lemieux after he lost to Billy Joe Saunders. And after the fight, he goes, it just like he did against Golovkin. He says, it just wasn't my night. As if to say, there wasn't anything wrong with me other than something happened to me physically. But if I would have been 100%, I would have beaten him. Well, then you're not admitting that there's a lot of holes in your game. And it remains to be seen, like you said, if Eubank Jr. is willing to improve. Because if not, even with this type of 168-pound division, which is rather wide open, I think that the Rails could still take him for a 12-round decision. James DeGale as well. I mean, he definitely needs to improve, man.
Come on, BDA. He's going to move up to 175 and dominate. Come on. Tell the truth.
Yeah, he's going to move up now. Oh, he should move. Yeah, he can move back down because there's killers there in that division. So, yeah, he's going to move to 175, but I mean, no, listen, he's got to, like Corruption said, he has to confront the hard facts, which is change your trainer, change your ways, stop posting Instagram videos of you knocking out sparring partners. It's not a good look. I mean, everything points to him not being that much of a realist. Although I will say I do respect the fact that he went for broke late in the fight, but even then, you could see his technique went to the crapper. And he was just, swinging wildly. Now, I got to ask you guys, because 168-pound division, like I said, wide open, do you think after Golovkin and Canelo end up their feud, their rematch, let's say Golovkin wins, would it be wise for him to move up and maybe take on some fresh blood up there? Or should he stay there at middleweight and take on Daniel Jacobs again or Billy Joe Saunders? Well, what's your opinion on that?
I think he should move up because, he's getting up there in age, and I'm sure it's getting tougher and tougher to make weight. And if, he doesn't get that Canelo, if he doesn't get the decision against Canelo this time or doesn't knock him out, then he basically has to start from scratch. He might as well start from scratch in the new division.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you know what? You're right now that you mentioned it. Corruption, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Golovkin has kept his body at 164 pounds since the age of 21 when he was fighting in the amateurs. And hence, 160 pounds. How many years has he been a professional now?
A decade, probably.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, obviously there comes a point in which, as we've aged, there are changes in the metabolism, and you will definitely, your body will naturally try and obviously put on weight, or the ability to obviously, curtail that becomes more difficult. So, and we know he's an extremely dedicated athlete year round who meticulously sort of maintains his body weight, controls his diet, exercise in between fights, so he has a good lifestyle. Although recently we saw him at 30-day check-in weights, he was actually a lot heavier. I guess he was recuperating a little bit more. Plus he had an injury, so the body is beginning to break down even more, so it becomes even difficult to maintain that weight. So I think it would be a win, lose or draw, whatever that transpires. I think it would be wise for him to move up, to 168 pounds.
Well, that's the thing. He has been looking rather dry in his last couple of weigh-ins. I mean, I know everybody looks dry, but his cheekbones really his face looked sunken more than usual.
And that 10-pound IBF rehydration can't be that good either,
Mm-hmm. Oh, he
exactly,
still
yeah.
He still has the IBF?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man. I mean, and at his age, it becomes harder and harder, like you guys said, to make that weight. But if Golovkin does go up in weight, which now it makes more sense now that you guys said that he should move up if he loses, because if he loses, how much, it would be easier to get on HBO if he fought a guy like Saunders or Daniel Jacobs again. But if he goes up in weight, he might be able to get a good, decent crowd over in England if he took on Groves, should Groves win the tournament. Or maybe even, Gilberto Ramirez has been talking about how he wants to take on Golovkin. Of course, that would entail working with Top Rank, but, I mean, you never know. Golovkin on ESPN, that would be a pretty sweet deal. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, shit, have a tune-up, fight the Gale.
Yeah, the Gale, Groves would make more sense, man. A little more money on the table there.
Well, that's mean. I was just being mean.
Yeah, yeah, you're really being mean today, man. I mean, you're going after these guys.
Oh, I'm just tired of the hype, man, and I dislike the Eubanks. Obviously, that's not why I picked against them, but they rub me the wrong way. They're what's wrong with the sport. They're just, just ugly fighting, coming in with this head, bending below the waist, fouling. Somebody made a comment, maybe it was you or somebody in the comments said that Groves was holding. Well, what are you supposed to do when a guy tackles you? Well, as soon as he bodies up with you, like, he puts his head on you, or he tackles you, pushes you around, well, he's breaking the rules. You're not supposed to do that. So of course grab him. If he's using his body to push you out of position, yeah, wrap him up, because he's breaking the rules. Bending below the waist, grab a hold of him, you know what I mean? Coming in with his head, put him in the choke hold. So the referee I thought the referee did a terrible job. He should have been warning Eubank. I'm not sure if that cut was from a punch or a headbutt, but either way, I mean, the guy was just coming in with his head, bending below the waist, throwing elbows, slapping. It was just terrible. He should have, as soon as Eubank stepped in and tackled him, he should have just split him up and allowed George Groves to just sharpshoot him from outside, because that's not boxing. The guy hasn't. People keep talking about inside game. The dude has no inside game, man. He's just he's horrendous. I mean, he might look good against the bum, but he was. Go ahead.
He's a barroom. Yeah, absolutely. He's a barroom brawler. Period.
Terrible. He's terrible.
Yeah, man. At the late rounds, when he was swinging and missing and dropping to the ground, I mean, you can get away with swinging early on, but once you get tired and you can't control your legs as well, you're gonna be flopping on the ring and looking like a drunk. I mean, it was really a bad little coverall for Chris Eubank. And I'm gonna tell you again, I don't like Chris Eubank either. I don't like his antics outside of the ring. I don't like his confidence. It's not confidence anymore. It borders on arrogance. But he, like I said, I can't deny that he does have potential, man. He's got athletic qualities and good punching power too. So he just needs to improve, man. And Groves, again, he showed he had his pedigree, amateur background, the ability to control the distance, to pop that jab in there. And if it's true that he fought the last round with a dislocated shoulder, then even more props to him, because he weathered the storm. When did Vitaly Klitschko quit against Chris Bird? I think he had 2 rounds left or something like that. Let me check it out.
I forget, but
I mean, yeah, whatever it was. I mean, he showed heart, even if it was just 1 round. When you have a guy coming at you swinging like a drunk, a back alley drunk, and you have only one shoulder and you're tired as well, I gotta give Groves props, man. People in the Go ahead.
And he learned that adversity from the Fedor Chudinov. Remember, he had a broken jaw in that one as well. So that's, you know, we talk about experience all the time. You know, good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from a lot of bad judgment.
Sorry, repeat.
Props to Groves. I thought he did a good job. I was a little bit disappointed because I thought he would have controlled Eubank a little bit more, but it was a difficult style to deal with because the guy was just doing all this stuff that no one really does. You know what I mean? It was really weird and difficult to deal with. But I thought he should have controlled him a little bit more. And but you know, Groves he's good, but he's not that good, I guess. He's much better than Eubank, obviously, but that's, you know.
Yeah, I think that's.
But yeah, props to him because he showed toughness as well, and you know, I thought he had the better stamina.
Who, Groves?
I agree.
You know, so.
Did you say Groves had the better stamina?
I thought he did. I mean, in that last round, he looked dead tired, but I mean, it was. Now I know that it was the shoulder, so. You know, that will take a lot out of you. But Chris Eubank was already ragged in like the 4th, 5th round, and I thought he was very tense, and I thought he was mentally affected. And I had a hunch that his confidence was really, it wasn't of the genuine kind. It was more of a put on. And I said in one of my predictions that it was going to be easier to take that away. And the man was really flat-footed and just tense, very, very tense. And the speed wasn't, maybe he was slightly faster, but it really, you know, I thought it was psychologically. I thought Groves shut him down, and maybe the occasion also, but he was psychologically affected for sure.
Agreed. It was a psychological victory, a man consumed by emotion and consumed with the objective of knocking him out, hence why no boxing ability, and hence that's what depleted his energy as well, mentally.
Yeah.
Everything talked about was just unraveling. It was frustration that was just exacerbating, you know, his infamous 21 round 200 sparring rounds per second or whatever bullshit he comes out with. It's just a fallacy.
Yeah, man, let me tell you, and the fact that he would stare Groves down virtually after every round, that was just also another clear-cut case that he was just too emotional, and he wasn't willing to accept that he was getting outboxed. I mean, on the one hand, that's good, that shows resilience, but again, that emotion didn't serve him well, man, and the wild swinging either. That's what people are saying in the chat right now, like, who's saying that? Beltran, where was the power? Somebody said in the chat that it was all that Undercover Asian says Eubank was more tired because he kept missing. That's the thing. Like you can go in there and swing all you want early on, but it's gonna catch up to you at one point, especially if the other guy's countering you. All right, hold on a second here. I gotta. Okay, I'm gonna invite Hamed and Catchnelo. He wants to come on. I want to get their thoughts on the fight. And we also have to get to the Beltran fight that happened yesterday, and of course Garcia-Rios. We don't have to talk that much about that one. I think we all know how that might go down. Gavril versus Benavidez is one that I'm looking forward to. Maybe even to get a look at Caleb Plant, who's going to be fighting on the Devon-Alexander versus Ortiz fight. And by the way, what's going to happen with Ortiz? I don't think he's going to quit in this one because I don't think Devon-Alexander has the type of power to make him quit. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, you never know about Ortiz.
Well, that's another insult right there, man.
Well, Floyd didn't have that much power. And
well, yeah, that's true.
He could have gotten out.
But I will say it's a lot better than Devon-Alexander's. I mean, the only other knockout from Alexander that I can remember was when he knocked out Urango, and that was 9 years ago. So I don't know how hard he can hit as well.
I'm sure the pizza boxes are stacked up waiting for him.
Yeah, man. I wonder if he does quit. I'm sort of hoping that he quits or does something stupid so that another. Well, actually, no. I never wish for a fighter to get garbage thrown at him. But come on, you got to admit that was pretty sensational when that guy threw. Was that?
Alexander has quit before, so hopefully both of them quit at the same time. That's a shit fight, man. I'm sorry. I don't like that fight. Whatever. It's whatever. I'm just not interested in it. You know what I mean? But
well,
if people want to watch it, more power to them.
Of the 4 fights that are going to be taking place tonight, are you looking forward to any one of them?
What? So you'd have to tell me what the fights are, man.
Okay.
I was just looking forward to this fight.
Gavril versus Benavidez, the rematch. That's on the one of the undercards.
Yeah,
then you have.
I like that fight, but I didn't even see the first fight to be honest. But I like Benavidez. I think he has a lot of potential, and a lot of people were saying that maybe he lost the first fight or didn't look that good. So he's got something to prove, and that might be interesting. He's a fun fighter to watch, that's for sure.
How about Caleb Plant taking on Porky Medina? That should be a good test to see how good Plant is.
Yeah, I mean, should be a good fight, but neither one of those guys is going anywhere. So, I just don't have the time to watch all these fights out there. But
Wait a minute.
Should be a good fight. Should be a fun fight.
Are you telling me you don't see Caleb Plant going anywhere? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Sorry.
All right. Well, that remains to be seen. All right, we got Catchnelo Give Me My Fight making his return for the first time in a while. Catchnelo, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. How are you, man?
I'm good, how are you?
Doing sensational. Glad to have you on board. Thank you for coming. Really quickly, get your thoughts on the Groves Eubank fight.
Yeah, I thought Eubank was... He was just horrible. He was just looking for that one shot. I mean, I knew he had no skills. He's just a brawler basically. He couldn't get inside on Groves, and when he did, he was just smothering himself. And I mean, I thought Groves looked okay. He didn't look great, but I think he's still beatable. But I think they were just kind of two guys, sort of one not on the same level, and Eubank was just. He's a hype job. That's all he is.
Yeah, that's what people are saying, man. He could. I mean, it was just no adjustments whatsoever. That was really the proof that he didn't deserve to be at this level.
Just no confidence in himself in early rounds, and the only reason why I think he had success was because Groves was fading. And that's it. I mean, just came in wild with his shots. Just. Scared to even throw shots at some point, I think.
Yeah, he was getting... Well, he had to watch out for Groves' right hand. Alright, real quickly, I gotta mention what people are saying in the chat room. Michael Stock says Rios won't beat Garcia, surely. Yeah, and by the way, I saw I didn't see the weigh-in, but I saw the stare down of the last press conference, and Garcia looks bigger than Rios. So, Rios is really, he's slower, he's more worn down from all the fights. His only real shot is to try to overpower Garcia, but looking at both those guys, it seems like Garcia is going to be the stronger guy. So I don't see a lot of hope for Rios on this one. And he's looked dry the whole week. So he's even at 147, he still has trouble making that weight. The guy's got to get a regimen or something, man. I mean, okay. Real quick.
It's a bit disappointing, Mr. BDA, when that fight is for. Either a final eliminator or one of those eliminators. The WBC at that 147 pound, just recycling. You lose one fight if you're a champion or a mandatory. You just fight somebody else and you're back in that final mandatory position. So they're clearly protecting the WBC, Keith Thurman on that side. So
well, I want to get to that.
It's a disgrace.
I want to get to that eventually, to the Keith Thurman issue. So we got to plow right through, because I mean, listen, I'm looking at the comment section here. People are talking about, like, first of all, Steven Skilrow says Triple G enable rate Benavidez very highly. Kyra Johnson says Porky is a working target. Rios is going to give Danny Garcia a taste of his own medicine and a no-look hook. I don't know, but we'll see. Fam Ollie says, how long has Plant been a prospect? I swear people been telling me to watch out for Plant for years now. You know, maybe Plant is like that guy who stays in college for 10 years and never graduates. Maybe he's in that permanent prospect position. And that's the thing.
Wilder.
Yeah, like Wilder as well. That's another guy. People are saying that they're not very terribly interested in Anthony Garcia versus Brandon Rio. So might as well talk about other subjects. But first, Hamed is in the line. Hamed, are you there?
Yes. How's it going?
Good. Thank you for being on. Listen, we got to move on to other subjects, but I want to get your thoughts real quickly on Groves versus Eubank.
That was an overhyped fight, and as a British boxing fan, I don't know why they hyped that fight up. That was a disappointing fight. Credit to Groves, he did what he had to do, but I wasn't impressed by either guy. I thought that fight was way overhyped. I mean, it's good they didn't overhype it. If it was on Sky Sports, I think it would have got even more hyped. I think Eubank, I think he needs to work on a lot of things. I mean, they got it wrong. I mean, people are gonna make a fuss about. They got it way wrong, and I think people make a big fuss about the Billy Joe Saunders fight. But I mean, he's had enough time. No excuses. I mean, he shouldn't be. The way his game plan was awful. Credit to Groves. I think Groves. I said at the beginning, I was leaning towards Eubank, but I said I haven't seen Eubank on this level, so. That was one thing I thought, that I couldn't really make a definitive pick, but I didn't want to sit on the fence, and I don't like doing that, so that's why I went with Eubank.
Mm-hmm.
When I went close to the fight, I seen a lot of people that I respect were picking Groves, and I started to have doubts, and that's when I knew I think Groves might win this fight. I was a bit surprised though. Groves, I thought he managed his tank quite well though, but I wasn't too impressed with Groves. I thought he made some mistakes, but I mean, I think Groves deserves credit, so I'm not going to discredit him or say anything bad, because I mean, everything was there for Eubank. I mean, he's in his prime. He should have won that fight. If he's that good, then he should have won and he should have performed. He didn't. I thought he looked really bad in the first 3 rounds, and I was speaking to one of my brothers. He was like 2 amateurs fighting, especially Eubank. I mean, his technique was awful. I mean, no jab. I mean, that was the key thing. I think Groves established his jab. I think the size he used it. I think Groves should probably win the tournament now. I can't really see much, but that fight wasn't really that good. I don't think until the last couple of rounds. But I think Eubank, he'll deserve all the criticism. I mean, they brought it on themselves, but I mean, the overhyped and all that situation, I don't see who really even overhyped him. I don't think anyone really thought he was that good. I don't think.
Well, that's a good question. Like, who cares about, what's the point of this tournament? Because at the cruiserweight division, the winner is going to be the best. We got Gassiev and Usyk. Everybody thought, most people predicted that we're going to be in the final, so they're going to sell it. This super middleweight tournament, what's the point?
I think people wanted to know who's the best in Britain. I think that as for the super middleweight division, I think it's a bit of a dead division. I'm not really too fussed. I don't really pay too much attention. I think before the tournament started, I think it was because Groves had been beaten by Badou Jack and DeGale. A lot of people thought lost to Badou Jack. I think Badou Jack should have won that fight, and Eubank kind of came onto the scene. Even though he was fighting relatively unknown opponents, I think people are kind of stuck in 2 minds. I always said that Eubank and DeGale would have been a much better fight, and I think my point was proved. I think the clash of styles was bad. I think Groves was holding. I mean, people are trying to give Groves credit for holding. These are the same people who are saying Ward was dirty against Kovalev. I saw this exact same fight at times. I mean, Groves was rabbit punching, but he had to do what he wanted to do, and I thought Eubank at times was fighting dirty as well. So I won't go there too much, but from a fan point of view, I don't think it was a good fight. I thought the Dorticos and Garcia fight was much better, and I think a lot of people kind of slept on that fight, especially here. I don't know why people thought this fight was going to be that good. It was not a fight of the year candidate.
Well, it's the cruiserweight division, man. People don't pay attention to the cruiserweights that much. It's always been the bastard stepchild of the heavyweight division.
I still don't think Groves is that good. I mean, Froch put him to sleep, and I thought Badou Jack schooled him over 12 rounds. I think Eubank is a European, maybe a level fight, and Groves, I think, is somewhere in world level, but I think he is probably world class, but I think he'll need to prove it by winning the tournament. Because, I mean, the thing I'll say is, was Eubank really that good? And that was the question I think everyone was asking. So I think that got answered, and I don't think he is that good, and I don't think many people probably thought he was that good.
Well, there were some people that thought he was good. I mean, they were betting on the guy, for Christ's sake.
No, good enough to win the fight. But I'm saying some people will get angry because if someone suggested he's like the best super middleweight, don't think.
Nah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. I think our eyes have seen he's not that good. And one thing I want to see, if Groves wins the tournament, then he's a bona fide #1 super middleweight, and he's probably the best super middleweight.
But wait a minute.
I think
based on what? Who has he beaten?
You reckon?
No.
No. I disagree with that one.
But what if Gavril beats Benavidez, and then you got Truax? I don't know. Actually, you might be right.
Look, I'll put up the rankings again. Actually, I'm not gonna put them up, but we already saw them. But it's a wide open division. Nobody has done enough to deserve the #1 spot.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty clear right now. Somebody has to really. I know what people are gonna say. Oh, somebody has to unify the belts. Forget about the belts. I've been saying it for years. Forget about the belts. It's about the competition. Surdo Ramirez. Even if, let's say, somebody goes in there and knocks out Ramirez, to me, that still doesn't prove that person will be the #1, because I don't consider Ramirez to be the #1. It's wide open right now. Forget about the rankings. Forget about the titles. Somebody needs to step in there and wipe the division out.
But what I meant was he's beaten DeGill before, and he's beaten Eubank. And if he beats Callum Smith or Bremer, then I mean, you'd have to put him ahead of. I mean, it's still debatable, but I thought you could probably make an argument for saying he's #1. But I think you're right. It is an open division. I don't think it's a clear-cut winner like the super middleweight, like #1. I think the winner of that tournament will be rightly so the #1. They'll have all the belts, so I don't think it's the same as that category division.
All right. Well, now listen. People don't want to talk about the Garcia-Rios fight. I think even less people want to talk about the Alexander Ortiz. Actually, I'm more interested in asking the people in the chat, which fight is less interesting, Garcia-Rios or Ortiz-Alexander? Let me know in the comments and in the chat.
I don't think anyone cares about Ortiz.
Yeah, nobody cares about him. He should make more commercials and leave us alone. I want to get to real quickly something here, because the welterweight division is really one of the divisions that's on the warpath right now. It's hot. We got 4 genuinely great heavy, not great, but I mean solid welterweights in there that could make for entertaining fights. Finally, Jessie Vargas came out and said he flat out called Thurman a coward. Now, precise, you've been very vocal about calling Thurman a coward as well, and not, you mentioned how people were saying a couple of years ago that he would have beaten Pacquiao. Meanwhile, Pacquiao was still dropping Bradley and dropping Jessie Vargas, and generally showing that he was still a full level above some of these guys. And I wanted to ask you, does it surprise you how quickly some fans are to throw their favorite fighter under the bus? Because at one point Thurman was a favorite. Now Errol Spence comes along, and all of a sudden he's the love child. I mean, what do you make of all this situation?
I think the LDBC do that a lot.
But I'm not just talking about the LDBC. I'm talking about fans in general. They have. What's that? I mean, what I'm saying is they jump on the bandwagon. And then as soon as somebody else comes along, it's like, oh, fuck this guy. This is the other guy's trash. I understand Thurman. He's got his limitations, and Spence has been impressing people more than Thurman has. But it's surprising how quickly they threw him under the bus. It's like there's no loyalty in there when it comes to appraising a fighter.
Well, he's not dark enough, is he?
Is that what it is?
Of course. They got a chocolate brother now, so they're gonna pick right him.
Anyway, listen, I'm not gonna get into the whole fucking thing today, but suffice to say, I mean, what's that? Okay, I hear
think they
voices.
see this guy. He's putting his competition away more, convincingly, or he's getting the KO. So they just gravitate towards that.
I mean, Spence is something that I think Mayweather couldn't do at welterweight. If he keeps doing what he's doing, so I don't see why people are calling him a hype job. I think there's a bit of hypocrisy and double standards. I mean, is it any different when other fighters are doing this against? I think Spence has to prove himself still, but I mean, if he's knocking guys out and doing everything which welterweight should do, then and the way he's doing it, dismantling some very, good fighters, not the best. He still needs to answer some questions, and I mean, he's heading in the right direction. The only thing I'd say is he needs to beat Porter and Thurman, or at least one of them, like in his next couple of fights. Like, I think the management might not help him with Al-Himan. I'm not too sure if he could get those fights.
The hell was that?
Spence isn't. Well, Spence he's an exciting fighter. It's easy to get behind a guy like that. But at the same time, he really hasn't done anything. No, it's not fair to say not anything, because the Brook win was good, but it was blown way out of proportion. And beating Peterson, that means nothing. That was just a showcase fight. I mean, we just saw Kavaliauskas, who I don't think is all that good, destroy Avaneysan, the guy that was very competitive with Peterson, and if he got that decision, it wouldn't have really been a robbery either. You know what I mean? So Spence is very much unproven still. He's got holes in his game. I don't think he punches as hard as some people think he does. But it's difficult to see if there's anyone in the division that would beat him, except obviously Manny Pacquiao.
Pacquiao right now, or the one that?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if Pacquiao has much left.
I don't think
but
I don't think anyone beats him except Crawford. If Crawford, obviously, which he should, beat Horn, I still think Thurman might have a chance. But I think that's a fair assessment what you just said. Maybe not.
I mean, we don't know.
It's a fair assessment. I think what you said. I give him credit for beating Brook for one reason: for traveling. A lot of Americans. I mean, Roy Jones, go through the list. All these great fighters, none of them travel to the UK. I mean, you could go back and forth, but the bottom line is none of them, from Gerald McClellan to about when I think Terence Crawford and Errol Spence came over to the UK, none of these Americans came over. Roy
Terence
Jones,
Crawford.
James Toney.
He gets credit, no doubt,
yes.
but I'm not trying to hype up Pacquiao anymore, because we really don't know where he's at, but he never fought one single welterweight fight in the Philippines. So speaking of credit, you know what I mean? It is what it is, man. I'm sorry. I don't mean to. I'm just a pactard. So let's move on.
Well,
no, I'm like, look, Pacquiao would box the brakes off Spence. Spence would probably maybe get to him late and would be able to maybe force the stoppage. But as far as boxing skill, speed, and all that, Pacquiao would box the shit out of Errol Spence. Maybe Spence.
The Pacquiao that fought Horn, or the Pacquiao in his prime?
Huh? The Pacquiao that fought Horn. The Pacquiao in his prime would destroy Spence Jr. The
Pacquiao in his prime would destroy nearly anyone. So I mean,
yeah.
I mean, no one's comparing.
Well, obviously he's not in his prime. But look, unless you think Jeff Horn beat him, no one has beaten Pacquiao. And from what I've seen, most people don't think Horn did. Pacquiao lost to Mayweather on paper, even though a lot of people disagree, myself included. But that's old news. Mayweather's retired, right? He's not a Pacquiao anymore. Pacquiao has, like, nobody has. Pacquiao should be the top guy in the division. You know what I mean? He should be on paper, which isn't to say that he wouldn't lose to some of these top guys, but you need to see him beat conclusively for this division to be hot, to be credible, for me to get excited about this division. Because if no one's beating old man lightweight Pacquiao, then this division is shit. Let's just keep it real. The division is crap. We could bloviate all day about what Spence would do to Pacquiao and this and that. He didn't even want to fight Cotto, so imagine that. You know what I mean?
So you thought Mayweather lost to Pacquiao?
Yeah, I proved it.
Wow.
But I don't want to talk about that.
No. Wait. Because that's I think that's something that I've never heard from someone else say that. What was your scorecard for that fight?
when I watched live, I had a draw, but when I watched it again, I found it very hard to.
I don't know how you score. I mean, I heard you had Groves 11-1 to Eubank, which I think you had the right guy winning, maybe a bit wide, but Mayweather-Pacquiao draw, I don't know. I think that's a bit way off. I thought Mayweather clearly won that fight, and I don't like Mayweather. But trying to be objective as possible, I thought Pacquiao won 3 rounds. If you really want to be biased, I mean, if you really want to be generous, 4 rounds. And I only watched that fight twice, and that was a horrible fight. I fell asleep the second time I tried watching.
Okay, so your score falling asleep is more credible than me slowing down the action.
Well,
hold on, I'm not. Hold on.
Well, I said I fell asleep towards when the fight finished. If you let me finish what I was gonna say.
Well, but that's fine. But you weren't interested. You were bored by the fight. You weren't interested. Maybe you weren't paying very good attention. And that's fine. What I did is I made a bunch of videos counting the punches, slowing it down, and Pacquiao outlanded Mayweather in something like 8 of the 12 rounds. He factually outlanded him. That's what happened. If you didn't see that, then that's fine. We could agree to disagree, but
no. I heard of that video. I didn't know it was your video. I heard someone did make a video like that.
There were a lot of videos. It wasn't just me. There were a lot of videos.
So why did punch stats have Mayweather outlanding him in 9 rounds? That's a contradiction to your video. Then I don't understand that.
So you think CompuBox always get it right?
Well, the more right. Well, they got more chance of getting it right than probably you.
Have you?
I mean, they've been doing it for a while.
You're telling me that...
Well,
hold on. You're telling me that 2 guys clicking buttons live are going to do a better punch count than somebody watching the fight in slow motion. Is that what you're telling me?
You don't need to watch in slow motion. I watched that fight twice, and the second time I watched it, I could tell Pacquiao apart from round 4 and 6, I don't even know why we talked about it, but apart from 2 rounds, I didn't see him winning more than those 2 rounds. He didn't dominate more in any other round apart from those 2 rounds.
Well, we're talking about it because you wanted to talk about it and I didn't. That's why we're talking about it. And I really don't care to talk about it either because I know what I saw and I could agree to disagree. But if there was actually a poll posted on one of the UK websites after the fight asking if Mayweather deserved to win the fight, and 63% of the people responding said no. People think that the fight was very close. It was a draw, and a lot of people think Pacquiao won. But that's, that's fine. We don't have to agree. I know what I saw, and I'm, it's in the past. You can't reverse what's been done, and it is what it is. But there are a lot of people out there, a lot of credible people who know how to score fights, who agree with me. So
now I will say
you don't have to. I really don't care.
Yeah, I will say that I do disagree with that. I will disagree with that statement precise. I don't think Pacquiao won that fight, but like you said, I don't want to talk about it either, man.
Pacquiao
that fight
lost clearly.
Yeah, I'd rather.
I know. Let me just say something. Pacquiao clearly.
I don't
lost
even.
That majority of people who know how to score. Pacquiao lost that fight clearly. In his prime, he would probably have beaten Mayweather, but talking about scoring fights, Mayweather clearly won. He was outlanding him. He won the first 3 rounds clearly, so I don't know how you could give Pacquiao more than 4 rounds. I mean, take CompuBox aside, because I don't score fights on CompuBox, but Mayweather clearly won 8-9 rounds. I mean, when I watched the second time, I said
Pacquiao clearly won 8-9 rounds, and we need to move on.
I said Mayweather clearly won 8-9 rounds, and Mayweather clearly won that fight.
Right, well, Pacquiao clearly won the fight.
Well, I don't know anyone else who thinks Pacquiao won that fight.
But listen, I'm laughing.
I'm gonna
Boxing truth.
I'm gonna disagree with you.
Thinks he did.
I'm gonna disagree with you there, Hamed, too, because I had Pacquiao winning the fight.
Whoa! I mean, okay, listen. Like Precise said,
I only saw it once, and I didn't slow it down or anything. What I was watching. That's what I scored it, and I saw Pacquiao just doing more than Mayweather.
More missing, you mean? I mean, listen. I'll put it this way: Mayweather did the bare minimum to win the fight, meaning he made Pacquiao miss. Hold on, Hamed, I'm talking. Hamed, I'm talking. Mayweather was making Pacquiao miss a lot, and he was landing a right hand here, a right hand there. Meanwhile, Pacquiao was landing on the side, on the shoulders. But at the same time, like Precise said, do we really need to talk about this fight? This fight happened, what is it now, 3 years ago? I want to forget that fight more than any other fight. I'd rather rewatch John Ruiz against Hasim Rahman than to watch or talk about this fight.
Before I finish,
make it brief, please, Ahmed, because I don't want to go on and on about this fight.
I didn't think people thought that was a robbery or a controversial decision. I thought
me neither, but
people and Mayweather clearly I thought won that fight. I mean, I could see a maybe 8 rounds to 4, maybe 7 to 5. Mayweather being generous, but to say Pacquiao won 10 rounds and 9 rounds, I mean, I don't know. I think I see a pattern. If people are scoring that way.
One last question. Did you see Pacquiao hurting Mayweather in the 8th round? Did you see that?
No, he didn't hurt him. And even if he did, that's one round. That's one round. That's one round. It's a 12 round.
No, but I've just asked you a question. Did you see Pacquiao hurt Mayweather in the 8th round? Did you see that?
Well, even if he did, I cannot remember from the back of my head. I'm saying who won the fight. I thought Mayweather won 8 to 9 rounds. I mean, maybe you could argue.
That's okay, Hamed. But you also were looking at.
I mean,
Anthony Joshua.
Who wins the fight? Who wins the fight?
You were also
who
looking.
lands the shots?
Look, Hamed. Like, this is the last thing I want to say about this. You were looking at Anthony Joshua blatantly rabbit punch Vladimir Klitschko, and you said it was a good stoppage. So.
I didn't say it was a good stoppage. I said it was a legitimate stoppage. Okay, well, I could argue.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I meant.
I could argue. Well, you could argue. Some people have said Pascal and Kovalev was a bad stoppage. The first fight. Well,
I don't care what some people said. Yeah, all I'm trying to say is
my point, because you just cut me off. All I was trying to say was, if you look back, that was a legitimate stoppage. Now, I think Klitschko could have fought on, but I mean, it's debatable, I guess.
Yeah, but the only thing I want to say is that however you feel about whether a fight should or shouldn't be stopped on rabbit punches, the fact of the matter is that Anthony Joshua landed 2 rabbit punches, and you seemed surprised when I brought that up. So I know what I'm looking at, and you know what you're looking at. I don't think it's fair for you to laugh at people who have a different score than you on the fight.
So wait, can I just say something?
Yeah, hold on. Especially people who have actually done the work and shown how Pacquiao's shots weren't getting counted, and how CompuBox, and this is on record, you could look this up, CompuBox was counting Mayweather jabs that hit nothing but air. It's live, you could see it. That's what happened. I really don't want to talk about this. I didn't even want to get into it. It's silly.
So you thought there's a robbery, or you thought there's a controversial decision? That's all
I had it a draw live. Live, I had it a draw, so I'm just going to go with that. But when I watched it again and I really paid attention, I thought Pacquiao won clearly.
And you thought he won clearly, like you thought it was a bad decision. That's what I was just going to say.
I, like a lot of other people that I talked to, thought Pacquiao won the fight, yes.
Okay, I have to intervene. What's the point of this discussion? I'd rather forget that fight. I don't know. People in the chat room want to keep listening to this. I mean, that's another thing, but I don't know if people want to see this fight. But listen, we got a lot to talk about. I know Cameron. We have Cameron on the line. Cameron, how are you, man?
2018, not 2015.
What's that? I didn't catch what you said.
I said I thought we were in 2018, not 2015.
Yeah, forget about 2015. It's time to move forward, man. You gotta keep going, man. There's a lot of great fights out there. Real quickly, Cameron, your thoughts on Groves Eubank, because we already talked about it, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I went on a bit of a Twitter rampage of tweets about this fight, because I was really disappointed in Eubank's corner. He did an excellent job. I thought, Eubank's offense and barrage pretty well. Eubank was going to be doing when he came in, and he was tying him up well on the outside, and Eubank couldn't get around him to get on the inside of him, apart from lunging in, and he was getting caught. But to the thing I said after the fight, Eubank's corner, if he's going to and that's train himself and teach himself and do what he wants to do, he's not going to get anywhere. He's not going to get to a sort of a world title, because he stepped up now at 2 weights and he's lost. Going by he's not learning at all. There's no sort of technique beyond his work. There's no sort of technical basis at all. It's all kind of wild and jab. It's just hooks and uppercuts coming out of long range, and have to really change things if he's going to want to career. Because I mean, he's 28 now. Talent, because he had two veteran figures in his corner tonight. His dad and Davis, who was a great trainer back in the day. Just silent. There was no instructions whatsoever around, and even though the fight was fading away from him, and I thought Groves done well, like I said, but Eubank's gonna have to change something if he's gonna get to where he wants to be, and then otherwise he's just gonna keep slipping up every time he finds out superior technical boxers, and that's what happened tonight.
Yeah, you're not alone, man. I asked people that about whether they were going to. Some people were going to start blaming the lack of proper corner work, and yeah, man. Like Precise mentioned the cutman who was doing a bad job. Chris Eubank Sr. I mean, listen, former world champion. It's always good to have a guy with experience in the corner, but training and being a good fighter are two different things. And like I said, man, Eubank has the talent, the physical talent, and good defense, pretty good defense to make it far. But this fight just showed, man, he just didn't have it, man. By the way, in the chat room, people are still going on about Pacquiao Mayweather. I thought some people said let's move on, but then other people still want to talk about it. I will say that I'm glad both guys are thinking about retiring. I mean, I know Mayweather now starting to tease the fans about maybe fighting in MMA, UFC, and Pacquiao still wants to go on against Michael Verado. You know, both guys, two of the best of the year, of the past, of this generation. But let's move on, man. We got so much fresh blood here. Was that Cameron? I couldn't hear you.
They just both need to retire. It's simple as that.
Exactly. Do us all a favor and just retire, for Pete's sakes. Okay. So I'll ask you, Cameron, because there's a lot of people out there that aren't interested in Garcia versus Rios or Ortiz versus Alexander. How about you? I mean, you got any hope that we might see some entertaining fights tonight?
I thought, Victor Ortiz and Alexander is too late. I mean, they're both world champions around the same time. I mean, maybe 6-7 years ago it would have been a sort of a good fight, but now it's fighting. Fight Spence. What it is now, they're going to be, the winner of this is going to be sacrificed as Spence, I assume, or Keith Thurman. But Rios Garcia, I can't see how Brandon Rios wins that fight. He hasn't got the power to hurt Danny Garcia. We're talking about a guy who's Luke Matisse hit as hard as that, and he doesn't match up well technically with Garcia at all. So really stops Rios probably mid to late rounds. I don't really have much hope in them fights, to be honest with you. So I'm not really expecting much from either one. How
about you, Catchnelo? You got any hopes for tonight's fights, or are you just gonna watch?
I'm looking forward to the Benavidez fight more than any other fight. I thought the first fight was pretty good. Even though I thought Benavidez, got a little exposed. He squares up too much. I don't think his chin is all that great. I mean, he pretty much got knocked down with a jab. But I mean, he was squared up. But I think he might let his hands go a little more this time. Earlier, he might stop Gavril, I think, but. Yeah, I mean, Gavril's pretty good. The one thing that he should have done more in the first fight was turn Benavidez, because Benavidez doesn't cut the ring off very well, and he should have he backed up too much instead of moving side to side. I think that's one of the mistakes he made.
That's a good point.
But he did pretty. He did pretty good. Body work.
Yeah, I thought that Gavril was really fighting at 100%. That he was going all out. And even then, Benavidez, who wasn't even fighting at 100%, he seemed to be able to keep up with him. So if, and I know it's a big if, but if Benavidez somehow was able to find his second win here, or come in shape as he should have in the first fight, and show us what he showed us against Porky Medina, I still think he should take out Gavril with relative ease.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I'm looking at the Mr. Coxey has to go. Says thanks BDA. Take care, guys. See you next time. Take care, Mr. Coxey. Thank you for joining us. People in the chat room are still going on about Mayweather-Pacquiao. Precise, you opened up a can of worms with this one, man.
I didn't mean to. I really, as soon as I said it, I knew it would be the case. So I said I don't even want to talk about it, but Hamed just wouldn't let it go. So
he's still going at it in the chat room with people who disagrees with him, and I'm actually I'm actually surprised at how many people agree with you, Precise. There's a lot of people in the chat room. They're mentioning Artorius video, which I saw, and they're saying you did a video, but I'm assuming that video got lost when you closed your initial channel, correct?
Yeah, I have the videos. Maybe I'll re-upload them. I don't really want to. I moved past that.
What are they arguing? What are they arguing in the chat? Whether Pacquiao beat Mayweather or not?
Yeah.
No, Mayweather. I scored that fight 10-2 to Mayweather.
Well, listen. Apparently, there's a disagreement. I didn't know people disagreed, and they're still going at it in the chat room, man. I mean, it's amazing. You know, Mayweather and Pacquiao. It's like arguing religion and politics. People can just go on and on for days, man. And you know what? If people are really interested so much in this, maybe we should do a special episode on it, because it's really getting people riled up.
I'm sorry, man.
Go ahead.
If you find some time, type in Pacquiao Mayweather post-fight, and don't watch any Americans, don't watch any British people, watch people from other countries, and see what they have to say. A lot of people thought Pacquiao won the fight. Okay, the thing with commentary is that, you know, it's just biased American, and especially British commentary is some of the worst commentary ever. I mean, they don't even know how to score fights. I mean, to give Huey Fury more than 2-3 rounds against Joseph Parker, I don't even want to get started on that. But if you're an open-minded person and you want to know what people all over the world, seeing as this is a global sport, thought, in Australia, you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody in Australia who thought that Pacquiao didn't win that fight, apart from all the people that obviously thought that Horn beat Pacquiao, which is another fucking load of bullshit. But anyway, like, I know what I'm looking at. I mean, I keep proving myself time and time again, and if people have a different opinion, that's fine. I don't have a problem. I just don't appreciate people ridiculing my opinion when my game is strong, and all of you know this.
Yeah, man. I mean, you don't even have to say it. I mean, your past two predictions, Gassiev, Dorticos, and now Eubank-Groves, you really hit the nail on the head with that one. But it's just interesting how, and I'll repeat it, just how people are still talking about this fight. It seemed to me like people wanted to forget about it after it happened, but all of a sudden, and I'm telling you, I didn't know that there were people out there that had Pacquiao winning. I mean, that to me it's still surprising. But anyway, we'll move on. I wanted to mention some.
Roach, right? I'll say one thing. Freddie Roach. Fighters have been in fights. He's always come out and said, "I thought, he thought Cotto beat Canelo. Pacquiao beat Mayweather." Close at all. Even Roach knew it wasn't close. But he didn't say Pacquiao won the fight. He said, if Pacquiao was 100%, he would have won the fight. He didn't win the fight. Won it, he would have said he won it. I think you've got to take that into consideration, because the fact is, Roach, what he says, his fighters win fights.
Okay.
Close enough.
Okay. That's a very easy question to answer. Right after the fight, Roach said that they won the fight. Actually, factually, Mayweather came out and said, "You have to admit you lost the fight if you want the rematch." And Roach started playing the game and then admitted that they lost the fight because they wanted the rematch. But right after the fight, Roach actually said that they won the fight. Bob Arum said they won the fight. Pacquiao said they won the fight. Lots of people said he won the fight. Not UK, not US. Go check out some. Oh yeah, just do it. But
I mean, I've been for a long time. I've got into a lot of people. I've never seen anyone say Pacquiao won that fight in my life since that fight.
Okay, well, I have. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, at
That's
this
fine.
point,
Some of us live in a bubble. Some of us, venture out of our bubble. It is what it is.
at this point that the conversation is really turning into that whole thing about who do you have as number one pound for pound. Like, you could have anybody essentially. I think we should move on.
It's stupid.
I wanted to move on real quick because I know Nicola Ferrari is in the chat room. On Wednesday's episode, we were talking about the Nazis and amphetamines and how they used to ingest amphetamines and other things in order to improve their performance in war. And I mentioned that I had read somewhere, I forget where, and I forget exactly what the information was, but that there was a strong link between Nazis and homosexuality. And Nicola Ferrari made a very good point. He says one thing about the SS, which was the special police from the Nazis. One of the things about the SS being homosexuals, ever wonder what SS means? It's not Schützenfestel, which has only one capital S. It really means Sedes Sacrorum, Knights of the Holy See. And he says it was Roman Vatican army. Himmler was a Jesuit sent from Rome to help Hitler, and they modeled the SS of the Jesuits. So that's an interesting thing to research if you guys are into that. If I have time, I'll look into that. But then again, the Nazis, a lot like Mayweather and Pacquiao, are history. But again, people love to read about them, so they create that. Okay, now what's going on in the chat room? Now I'm again, as it always does in certain parts of the internet, it's devolving into a discussion of race. Floyd outclass. Gorguruga says Floyd outclassed Pac like Groves outclassed Eubank. Hamed says, well, he admitted it. He called LP. Okay, so I think Hamed is saying that you're racially biased. They're precise. Is that what you're saying, Hamed? I don't, because I can't keep up with the.
That's what he's saying, yeah.
That's what he's saying. All right. Well, by the way, I didn't even catch that. That some people are saying that Precise called Lopez the N-word. Did you call him the N-word? Or did you call him the with the ER at the end or the A? Because as I understand,
I said this nigga.
Okay. Well, even then, I mean, people, if you're white or if you're non-black and you call somebody just even that light version of the word, it's still they still take it as an insult. So I would suggest
in their culture. That's their culture, though, right? I don't have to. I have my own culture, right? So let them stick to their culture and make sure that they abide by their own rules, and let me be me.
I see. Well, listen, this whole fucking thing opened up a can of worms. So let's move on to another subject, and I'll stop reading the. Okay. Oh, Punch for Pound says the Jesuits came from the Alumbrados in Spain, but where did they come from? I haven't gotten that far. And FDR, I'm not sure that info about Hitler is accurate. Punch for Pound, are you saying Hitler wasn't doing steroids, and are you saying Hitler wasn't shredded, and that he couldn't have been a model in a calendar? Is that what you're saying? Because we're gonna need some proof to back that up, man. And I hope you write that soon. Nicola Ferrari answers back and says, look at the quotes from Hitler about the RCC and Jesuits. It's on record. So, the more you look into something, the more you start finding out that there was different layers in the onion. And it's the same thing with this goddamn Floyd versus Pacquiao fight that's taking so much of the chat room's time. There's a lot of layers to this onion that I didn't know about. Catchnelo, what do you make of all this?
Of all the Nazi talk?
No, about the whole Mayweather-Pacquiao thing.
Oh, I mean, yeah, to be honest, I saw that fight, when maybe like a week after it aired on pay-per-view. I only saw it once. I thought the way I scored it is Pacquiao was the aggressor. Yeah, he missed a lot, but I felt I saw him land more shots on Floyd, and he had Floyd hurt in the 4th round. And in the 8th round too. So, I mean, Floyd kept, he stuck to his game plan, which was just, hit and then clinch. So I mean, if you're gonna score like a fight like Triple G Canelo, a one-sided fight for Triple G based on Canelo, running all night and Golovkin being the aggressor, then you should, do that. I scored it. I followed the same logic with Pac and Floyd, you know, I saw Pacquiao, you know, just being aggressor and coming forward, and then Floyd was just clinching all night. Yeah, he landed some good shots, some clean shots, but I just saw Pacquiao do more work, do more than Floyd, and I felt he did more to win the fight.
Well, can I add something to that which you just said, which was the clinching? Mayweather in his last two fights, against Maidana in the rematch and against Pacquiao, fought very similar fights. A lot of moving, a lot of pot shot. He fought like an old Hopkins, which was doing the bare minimum to win, land a clear shot, clinch, and make the other guy miss afterwards. But this takes us back to the Eubank-Groves fight, which is Pacquiao was lunging in really awkwardly and you know, just rushing in, and that allowed Mayweather to clinch. So that should be a good advice for fighters out there, amateur or professional. Watch fights and know how to control the distance, because if you're just lunging in there, you're giving the other guy the opportunity to clinch, and the referee sees one guy coming forward and jumping like a maniac, and he will allow the clinch. That's why I respect a guy like Errol Spence, because he does control the distance quite well. You see him take little steps forwards and then just a tiny little step back, and he counters with power. And Kovalev does the same thing, Golovkin does the same thing, Terence Crawford does the same thing, Lomachenko. So you see a pattern here. All the top guys, the cream of the crop, they all know how to control distance.
Yeah, they do know when to clinch and when not to clinch, but Floyd just overdoes it, I think. I know Golovkin versus Jacobs, he clinched more than I've ever seen him before, but he did it I think during appropriate times so that Jacobs wouldn't get his shots off. But
it's you know, it's difficult to do what you just outlined when you have a 3-inch height disadvantage and a 7-inch reach disadvantage. It's a little bit difficult to control distance when you're there, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, I was expecting Pacquiao to do a lot more in and out and feinting. But again, you're in there against Mayweather, who has to be the best defensive fighter of our generation. You know, that might go to James Toney, Bernard Hopkins, or Mayweather, but those three guys really mastered.
One of the quotes that I remember reading, I think on YouTube, from I guess somebody who was there on the night of the fight, Pacquiao and Mayweather, is, you know, big fights like that, you get a lot of casuals that just go there and watch the fights, you know, bars or whatever. And I read a comment that said, "Why is the big guy running away from the small guy?" Meaning, why is Floyd running away from Pacquiao? And you know, that pretty much sums up the fight, I think. Mayweather didn't, you know, he never shows up to fight anyway. So
yeah, I was trying to circle away from that. Yeah, I was trying to circle away from that.
I don't understand why Floyd got all this credit for an absolutely disgraceful and pathetic performance. But hey, you know, I guess I'm a racist.
Well, listen. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. We'll just move on about it. Now, speaking of opening up a can of worms, I opened up a can of worms just bringing that whole Nazi thing up, because now Nicola Ferrari is saying the Nazis were the Vatican's creation. They created both wars. And then Punch for Pound brings up the Thule Society, that's where I had heard that there was a lot of weird stuff going on with homosexuality. They are many, says Punch for Pound. It's how they all connect. That is the mystery. Nicola Ferrari says Himmler was the leader of the Thule Society and the Vril Society. My goodness gracious, let me tell you something. You open up this can of worms, you go deep into the rabbit hole, and who knows where you end up, man. Because people say that. People say, well, the Vatican created the First and Second World War. Then some people say, no, it's actually the communists. Some people say that it was communists within the U.S. that financed both world wars and that they started the whole thing. Who really knows? I mean, how do you really get to the bottom of things that happened 100 years ago? And the more time's passing by, the harder it's going to be to get a grip on things. So, I mean, I guess we'll just... Oh, and by the way, do I see that Stu is on the line?
Yeah, I am. I'm here.
Oh, good to have you,
boys.
How are you, man?
Hey.
Good to have you back.
Is my mic okay?
Yes, it's okay today. We hear you nice and crisp.
No storm tonight. I mean, it certainly wasn't a storm in the ring tonight, was it? I mean, it was a very sloppy affair. I mean, Chris Eubank Jr. showed us tonight that he wasn't prepared for that sort of level. And I mean, his cutting off the ring was atrocious. He didn't have. It was, wasn't it? I mean, his footwork was all over the place. His timing was off. I mean, he's so used to fighting fighters that just in front of their face and walk forward in straight lines. And as soon as he come up against someone that was smart, that feinted, that used a bit of footwork, he was lost in there, and it was a terrible performance. Yeah,
I don't.
I've got mixed feelings about it because obviously, as a Brit, I want Chris Eubank to do well.
Well, you want both guys to do well, right? Groves and Eubank.
Say it again. Sorry.
You wanted both guys to do well, right? Not just Eubank. Or who are you rooting for?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't care who won the fight. I mean, Groves did what he had to do, but at times as well, and looking quite slow. I thought Groves looked quite slow tonight, but it just shows how poor Eubank was because he could barely hit Groves. I mean, it was just sloppy work. I mean, usually Eubank's best punch is his uppercut, and he just never found it all night.
He landed it once when he grabbed a hold of Groves, and then I think he landed a partial uppercut.
Yeah, he landed. He grabbed him by the back of the head. Yeah,
I mean, his size as well. It just proves that size matters. I mean, if you're a lot bigger than the guy, you've got longer arms and you've got a decent jab and you understand distance. Very, very hard to.
All right, Raider Jack just subscribed. Shout out to Raider. Sorry about that. That's the subscriber alert. Keep going.
Okay. All right. I thought it was your music collection there, bro. But nah. Yeah, it was fucking. It was a bit disappointing. I mean, I was expecting a better fight, but Groves did what he had to do. Eubank Jr. not big enough. I mean, the size did matter in this fight, and I think if Eubank Jr. wants to get to the top, he needs to get rid of his dad, get rid of Ronnie. He needs to go back down to middleweight, and he needs to start taking. Well, just taking information in from other fighters and learning stuff because he thinks he knows it all and he knows nothing. It just shows you how far off world class he is at the moment. I mean, you can't go around saying you don't need a trainer when you're not world class.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I think that's Eubank's problem.
Yeah, people were saying the same thing. Everybody seems to be on the same page about it. He needs to switch trainers. He was very poor. He was very arrogant, and who knows if he's going to be able to change. And like you said, Groves didn't even look all that terrific himself, but he did. That just goes to show how Eubank was unprepared for this fight.
He was talking about George Groves' health. I mean, I don't think he fucking landed a decent punch all night. So I mean, George Groves' health was never at risk really with that performance. I mean, even the shots he landed, I don't think he ever hurt Groves. Where Eubank was hurt numerous times. I mean, I think that's why he was hesitant. I mean, hesitant to come forward because he was getting caught with big counters. I mean, a lot of people when they're watching a fight, they don't realise when a fighter's hurt. There's certain movements a fighter does, certain actions that you realise when he's hurt. Eubank Jr. was hurt numerous times in that fight. I think he felt the power of Groves and frustrated because every time he came forward and tried to let off his own shots, he was getting countered or Groves was rolling off the ropes and getting out of there. I mean, it was just, he was lost. And it just shows you the difference in ability that they've both got at the moment. I mean, Eubank has got the tools to be a very good fighter, but he needs to get a trainer that's going to school him better, that's going to teach him to cut off the ring, to use his attributes. I mean, like I said, his favourite punch, the uppercut, landed once all night. I mean, that's not going to win you fights when it's your favourite punch.
Man, it's interesting to see how everybody's on the same page with this one. Yeah, go ahead, Catchnelo.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he makes sense. I think a long guy like Eubank with his athleticism, his best punch should not be an uppercut, because that's the guy that an uppercut should be a punch that shorter fighters or fighters with a limited reach should have. But Eubank's got the length. He doesn't have a jab. I didn't see him throw any. He threw those like wild left hooks that left his chin exposed. He walks in with his chin up in the air, and he just lacks fundamentals. He's horrible.
I don't know. I don't know if you guys watched some of his amateur fights. He had 24, I think. They're online on his channel on YouTube. And he actually looked like a completely different fighter. Now, he didn't look very versatile, but to me, it looks like he's actually gotten worse. Like he was a better fighter in the amateurs. If you ever get the chance, go watch those fights. He looks really good in the ring. I mean, he's not fighting the best opposition out there, but he's sticking a good jab. He's moving well. He's got the counter left hook down pat. I mean, I don't want to say he looks like Mayweather or anything, but you see glimpses of Pretty Boy Floyd there. You know what I mean? Not nearly. Don't get me wrong. But that kind of a style. And now he's a completely different fighter, and it's just not working. Not for me anymore.
Well, let me ask you this.
The problem is as well. I mean, when he was an amateur, he was probably listening to his trainer, and he wasn't so cocky and big-headed as he is now. And I mean, he thinks he doesn't need to learn anything. He knows it all. His will and determination is going to be enough. And at world-class level, will and determination is not enough. You have to have skills. You have to have knowledge. The KO tonight, if he'd have stepped on the gas, had Eubank in trouble a few times and backed off, I think if he'd have put his foot on the pedal, I think he could have got Eubank out of there. I mean, Eubank has got to go back to the drawing board, and it's hard to say what he does because he was so bad in every department. I mean, it's like getting from scratch and building him up again at 28 years old. I mean, can he do that? Because no matter who he fights at world level with any sort of footwork, he's going to be in the same situation where he's looking horrible, swinging for the hills.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's you hit the nail right on the head on that one. He's just not. This is the other thing. This is my question, because I didn't know about his amateur fights. I didn't know he looked more composed in his amateur fights. Was his regression the result of him fighting guys that made him look like Joe Louis, and that's why he regressed?
Could be, and I think they were also building this super exciting, British version of a middleweight Mike Tyson, maybe, and maybe bought into their own hype. I don't really know, because, some of these fights that I watch Eubank have, like O'Sullivan quitting, and when he fought the Turk, to me, especially his semifinal or the opening bout, it looked like a fixed fight because the dude was just standing there and.
So that's all he fights, fighting from the start. If you look at all his fights, like Spike O'Sullivan, his hands up, walking forward. Arthur Abraham, a prime example. The Turkish guy he fought last time. I mean, Nick Blackwell. I mean, does the list has to go on? I mean, it's only when he fought Billy Joe Saunders when he was the same. It was the same in that fight where he couldn't cope. I think it was only because Billy Joe Saunders was so unfit. Is why he came on strong in the latter round. Exactly,
man.
He was getting schooled, and just the same in this fight. Anyone with a bit of boxing know-how, a bit of footwork, old boxers like Billy Joe Saunders and George Groves, Eubank is always going to struggle against these guys because he doesn't know how to cut off the ring. If you don't have to, if you haven't got the range or the footwork. Boxing at the world-class boxing level, then you have to find a different way to win. If that means getting inside the pocket and throwing bombs and being a brawler, then be that fighter. But what sort of fighter he is?
Yeah, I think for Eubank to have any sort of career after this, he just has to be carefully matched, and that's it. I don't think he's a world-class fighter. He should just stick to. He seems to be popular in the UK. I mean, he's a
superstar opponent. He should be. He should play the role of a superstar opponent, like Adrian Broner.
Yeah, I think he should just accept the fact that he's a gatekeeper at this point now. I think
it's like this.
He's a name now. That's all he is.
If you're not prepared to get better at something, no matter who you are. I mean, if you look at all the top athletes in the world, I mean, when you talk about like Lionel Messi and Brady and all these people, like keep producing the goods. Is my internet going out?
So
yeah, these people keep producing the goods year in year out. because they're willing to learn and get better every year, no matter how good they are. And Chris Eubank Jr. seems to think that he's Sugar Ray Robinson and Muhammad Ali rolled it at one.
So
and he's
Stu,
more like,
maybe you could explain this to us, being from the UK. How is it that the UK, who unanimously scored a Mayweather-Pacquiao for Mayweather, how did they make Eubank Jr. the favorite in this fight? Like, based on what? What went wrong? Because we've been trying to figure that out. What happened?
What's the favourite? Was Eubank the favourite then? Let's be real. When you look at the Sky Boxing and British boxing, when it comes to the media, are the biggest. We hype our fighters. Let's be real. We make average fighters look like, and that's the brilliance of Sky.
But,
I mean, look at
Groves was British too. But Groves is British, and he's the proven guy. So I get what you're saying, and I agree. But how come Groves was being overlooked?
We get a fighter from the start, and we hype them up to be superstars. Amir Khan, one of them. Look how he got hyped up. That guy was a millionaire. The guy was making like $1 million in his third or fourth fight. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, you know, we hype these fighters up, and we don't hype the right fighters, the ones with the talent, and the ones that we should be getting on, like the Billy Joe Saunders, and no one gives him any credit, you know. But we like to give Eubank Jr.
Fury
eating some Turkish bum.
Fury,
you know, and yeah, exactly. Look at we don't give Fury any credit, but David Price was he was the next best thing at one time, weren't it? It was ridiculous. I mean, the British
do you think AJ's hyped? AJ's
of course he's hyped, but he has earned the right to be hyped. I mean, when you look how many fights he's had in them fights, I mean, there's not many fighters.
18.
There's not many fighters around the world that can say that they've achieved what he has in that amount of fights. So yeah, he is a bit of a hype job, but he's backing it, isn't he? He's a good fighter.
Yeah, I agree.
I will say, going back to the Chris Eubank thing, some people, I think it was Catchnelo who said, "Hey, match him back up against guys that are going to stand in front of him." Or I think it was Stu who said that. I don't know, but somebody said match him up against guys like Abraham again that are going to stand in front of him. But that's not going to help him. That's just going to get him back to square one. And then was that?
You should fight.
That was his problem in this fight.
Exactly.
He didn't know to fight against. Because the last time he fought someone with any sort of footwork was 2014 Billy Joe Saunders.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So they need to match him up against somebody that has some sort of footwork, but that he can be able to catch. You know, it's like when lions, they wound the prey in order to let the cubs get the kill, so that they learn on the spot. You know, kind of like a sparring session. That's what he needs right now. He needs to go in there against a guy that's gonna move a little bit, gonna give him trouble, but that he can be able to kick his ass. You know, really get the knockout. Because if he goes back against stationary fighters, then the next time he takes on like a guy like Darrell or somebody.
Chavez Jr. versus Eubank Jr. would be a good fight.
But can Chavez Jr. even make 168? I mean, he made 160 something against Canelo. That was for the money. Against Chris Eubank Jr. I mean, I don't know if there's enough money to make. Listen, Chavez Jr. is probably working around 200 pounds right now, stuffing his face with tacos and everything. So I don't know if he can even fight at 168, let alone. I don't know if he can make 168. Remember, this is a big dude, man. He's a big guy for a Mexican.
I mean, Eubank Jr. He called out Truax, didn't he? I mean, he wants that fight next. He said if he can't get it.
Well, everybody wants Truax. Everybody wants Truax.
That'd probably suit him as well.
Alexander Brand will beat him, guys. I'm not joking. He'll beat him.
Nah, I'm not going to go that far.
You just never know.
That fight, he's going to make him look silly. I guarantee you that. Guarantee. He may get the knockout late, but he's going to look awful.
I mean, Eubank Jr., I mean, when you're that arrogant, you've got to back it up. And I'm afraid he's in for a lot of shit on the. I mean, the memes are going to be coming out. You know, the trolling. I mean, he gets a lot of shit on the internet as it is. I can only imagine the grief he's going to be getting after that performance.
Naseem Hamed is already like ripping him, telling him he should retire, and he's overrated. pretty much. So you just shitted on him in front of, you know, all his UK fans.
Yeah, but that's how they do it, man.
Prince Naseem, because you know, I was a big Prince Naseem Hamed fan. I thought he was a terrific fighter. But let's be real, when he got beat, he was nowhere to be seen after that. He's not in a position ruining another fighter on TV when as soon as someone decent fight, he was running for the hills and never seen again. So a bit out of order. I mean, the guy's just lost. Boss, he's a fighter. He should know himself what it's like to lose.
Okay, first of all, Tubes in the chat room, Tubes is saying Naseem Hamed is looking slim these days. I think he's being sarcastic. I mean, let me tell you something. I looked at Hamed today, Naseem Hamed on that televised portion of the ITV fight. He looks like that guy that greets you at the general store when you ask him for cigarettes at midnight. I mean, the guy looks huge. I gotta wonder what happens to guys after they retire. Some of these guys, like what's his name, Wilfredo Gomez too. Wilfredo Gomez went from Ricky Hatton as well. I mean. Did these guys just hate training and now they're just saying, or is it a defense mechanism? Are they getting fat because they know that if they slim down, they're gonna want to get back in the gym and then they want to get back into a fight? Is this a defense mechanism on their part?
I think a lot of these fighters have.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say a lot of these fighters are shrinking down so much weight. That when they're out of camp, they're blowing up just to their natural weights, and a lot of them are huge guys. You're getting light heavyweights draining down to middleweight in certain cases, and I think this is why people are so shocked by the size of them. But when Kell Brook, look how big Kell Brook is. He's 170 pounds, but he's 170 pounds anyway. He's shrinking down to 147 to fight.
Okay, but let me ask you this. When Kell Brook weighs 170 pounds, does he look as fat as Ricky Hatton and Naseem Hamed?
Ricky Hatton's a lot smaller than Kell Brook, isn't he?
Yeah, he's short. He's very short. He looks weird, that guy.
But have you seen Ricky Hatton's diet?
No. But I can imagine what it must be like.
Well, fish and chips?
Fish and chips, a few beers, and then a few of lions. That's basically his diet. A few Colombian lions to wash it down with.
Let me ask you.
I don't understand how these fighters are so fat. I have a friend who lives over there, and he says the food over there is horrible, and it's expensive, and the portions are ridiculous.
The thing is, people say the food's horrible over here, but you can get any food you want in this country. I mean, where I live is just a nobody place, really. But I can, if I want to go and get Chinese, Indian, Kurdish, or if I want to get French, Italian, I can get any food I want. So it depends where you go. I mean, if you're going to go into a pub and ask for a full English breakfast, then yeah, it's not going to be good for you.
So if you want Chinese food, you go to the Chinese food restaurant. If you want Turkish food, you go to the Turkish. And if you want British, you go down to the lake and you grab yourself a meal. Exactly, yeah. Now, go ahead.
Do you know, there's England, there's a few places in England that are called the curry capital of the world, where they make the best curries. And that's not, you'd think that the best curries would be from India or somewhere like that, wouldn't it? But no, apparently Birmingham and Bradford and places like that.
That's interesting. Now, have you ever had the English breakfast and pour hot coffee on a guy's face after you're done with it? Have you ever done that?
No, I haven't, no.
Alright, well, then you haven't had any full English breakfast then. I wanted to get real quick, because we gotta go before this fucking fight starts. Apparently Caleb Plant is already fighting, and he's doing a good job of taking care of Porky Medina, who apparently, from what people are saying, he's looking flat. Lomachenko, who is one of the rising stars, and when I say rising stars, I mean in terms of profile, he's finding it hard to get a fight now. I mean, they're talking about him fighting Linares. Raimundo Beltran just fought last night against Moses, and that was a tougher fight than expected. I think at this point Beltran, he's slowing down, man, or he's slowed down. He starts out pretty quick, but he can't maintain that pace, and he doesn't move his head enough. But anyway, they were talking maybe that if the Lomachenko-Linares fight couldn't get made, maybe they would get Beltran in there. But again, on paper, if they did make that Lomachenko-Beltran fight, I don't think anybody would be terribly interested after last night. So my question to you guys is Lomachenko in danger of going into that Triple G 2012, 2015 territory where none of the big names want to fight him, and the only people that want to fight him are people that aren't in his weight division. I mean, is this what's going on right now?
Sure seems like it. I know Linares wants to fight. I'm confident in that, but Golden Boy doesn't seem to want to make the fight, and they're fighting excuses not to. But you know, Baverum always has a plan B, and if it's Beltran, well, so be it. It's like it's the same fight as what's dude's name? Berchet. It's basically the same fight, so it is what it is.
I'd love to see Lomachenko finally put an end to the Salido saga.
Nah, that's not going to happen, man. Salido's retired, first of all.
Like I said, I'm sick of hearing Salido's name.
Oh,
the guy's going to live off this fraudulent win for the rest of his. It's going to be on his grave. The man that beat Lomachenko. You know, it's just. It was just a horrible, horrible thing to see. Watching a man walk in the ring about 150 pounds, never made any effort to make the weight. He must have punched Lomachenko in the bollocks about just a quick guess. It could be more. I mean, it was just horrible how they robbed him, and that was the only thing about Lomachenko that he should have done. Even if it's about money, he should just give Salido the money he wanted, take a pay cut, put this guy to bed, because you're a lot better fighting this guy. If they fought now, look what happened to Salido. But until they do fight, everyone's going to just live off this, and I just want to see it put to bed, because I know Lomachenko would put a terrible beating on Salido, and I'd love watching every minute of it.
They offered him $1 million. He turned down $1 million. I mean, come on.
Well, like, Precise, you've had a lot to say about that fight. I mean, you made a video about it showing how... Because here's the thing. If you want to have Orlando Salido winning, that's fine. I mean, there was a lot of clinching and, like Stu said, a lot of dirty fighting. But, like, the point you made was, when people start saying, oh, Salido kicked his ass, I mean... What fight were you guys... I mean, what fight were those people watching if they really think Salido kicked his ass? I mean, are they... Maybe they're subscribing to the Andrew Ward school of fighting, which is that if you hit a guy in the balls long enough, that counts as ring generalship. I don't know.
I think we all know the method of their madness. We all know why they said that. I mean, and it's nothing to do with boxing, so we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
So yeah, that would be a shame if that what happens to Lomachenko, which he goes into that phase where for 3 years he has to take on, good opposition. But look, at this point, Lomachenko, we know he can beat almost everybody out there. I mean, obviously anything can happen. It's boxing. Maybe a styles matchup doesn't play into his favor and he struggles more than he should. But for the most part, the only fights that fans really want to see him in against is either Mikey Garcia or if he takes on Terence Crawford. But again, he would have to be hopping a couple of weight divisions to do that, and that just, but then again, Rigondeaux did it for him, so wouldn't that be, hypocritical at some point? But I don't know. But Lomachenko, we only want big fights for him. So I'm wondering this. Santa Cruz is slated to take on Abner Maris in a rematch. Carl Frampton is slated to fight Donaire in what I think is going to be a pretty good scrap. That the plan seems to be to make, if Santa Cruz wins and Frampton wins, they make a third fight. Let's say that fight happens. Santa Cruz, Frampton 3. Both guys are with the PBC or aligned in some way with the PBC. Is there a possibility that the winner of that fight might go up in weight to take on Lomachenko?
No.
Absolutely not.
I don't think so.
Well, then Lomachenko is shit out of luck, man, because I mean, the Mikey Garcia fight, I don't even know if that's...
Pacquiao.
Okay, now that's the thing. Pacquiao, is it confirmed that he's going to be fighting on Lomachenko's undercard?
Crawford's undercard.
Oh, Crawford's. Okay, so what's the plan here for Top Rank? Are they going to match Pacquiao with Crawford, or are they going to feed Pacquiao to Lomachenko?
I think Pacquiao's going to come out. He's going to look great against Alvarado, and Baberon and his matchmakers will say he's still too much for Terence Crawford, which has been the story up until this point. So they'll put him in with Lomachenko, the real fighter here.
I mean, the thing with Lomachenko, I've noticed a lot of the boxing fans, Lomachenko will get a win. I mean, how many fights he had? 9, but he's been asked to move at weight after every win. So to these boxing fans, Lomachenko should be hovering around at super middleweight right now. I mean, you know, when's it going to stop? I mean, they want him to fight Pacquiao, Crawford, all massive guys. Terence Crawford, 160 pounds on the night. And you want Lomachenko to fight this guy. The guy's like rangy, awkward, and fighting both stances. I'm not saying he's a better fighter than Lomachenko, but it's a massive advantage if he fights Lomachenko. And you'd have to pick Crawford to be the favourite, because Lomachenko, well, it's going to be like a really big guy in there against a little guy. And a good big guy will always beat a good little guy, and we all know that. And that's why we have weight divisions. I mean, when's it going to stop? Lomachenko's at a weight now that suits him. So let's keep him at this weight.
Well, I know what some people are going to say. They're going to say, well, Rigondeaux went up 2 divisions to fight Lomachenko, but here's the difference. Rigondeaux put himself in that position by A, being boring, and B, being inactive. He had no choice but to go up and get a big fight. And actually, that was, if you want to look at it that way, it's actually a courtesy that Lomachenko extended to him at a certain point. Or to a certain extent, I should say. So, Lomachenko is under no obligation to go to fight Terence Crawford. Especially with the Mikey Garcia.
But Lomachenko moved up in weight too. They had a chance to fight at 126 when Lomachenko was down there. So it's not. So he didn't. Yeah, he moved up 2 weight divisions, but that's after Lomachenko also moved up. So you know.
Exactly. So it's not the same situation right now as with Lomachenko.
Let's keep it real here. Rigondeaux, he begged for that ass whooping. He's the one that chased that fight.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, but now.
So, but you know, when you go to school, you got the little guy who thinks he's a tough guy, and he goes up to the big guy, trying to bully him. And then he gets his ass whooped, and then turns around and says, "Well, look at the size of him. He's much bigger than me." It don't work like that. If you'd kept your mouth shut, then maybe you would have a defence. But you're the one that chased this fight to take your ass whooping like a man.
That's a good point. Now, here's the thing, man. Boxing Style in the chat room says, Lomo will whoop Crawford. Now, listen. Lomachenko is entertaining to watch. He's definitely proven that he's a great fighter so far. I mean, not great in terms of resume, but what he's done in the ring so far is amazing. But whooping Crawford, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. The overhype that goes on. Listen, give Lomachenko his props, but don't go all out crazy and say that he's gonna whoop Crawford easily. I mean, I don't know. I mean, am I being in the wrong in this situation?
Who has Crawford beat? Like, let's be honest. Who has Crawford beat?
You mean compared to Lomachenko?
Like, what has Crawford proved for us to put him even pound for pound top 5? Like, forget all the belts, right? You don't care about that stuff. Forget about the accolades. Forget about the media hype. Who has he actually beaten, and how good were they?
Well, in terms of pound for pound, again, that too, I don't care. So, I mean, I don't have Terence Crawford number 1 or number 2.
What's his best win?
His best win, I would say, you know what? At this point, I would say it's Raimundo Beltran. I wouldn't even say
I still think it's Gamboa.
You still think it's Gamboa?
I still think Gamboa is probably his best win.
Yeah.
I say
it's between Postal and Gamboa, right? It's between those two.
Postal, well, I would say Postal and Beltran, but yeah, let's say it's Postal and Gamboa, yeah.
Well, Postal was a dreadful performance that the crowd booed, and he ran from Postal, and that fight is actually closer than HBO brainwashed people to think it was. But whatever, Postal was gonna fight Prograis, and he faked an injury, in my humble opinion, because Prograis was gonna show you. You know, he was probably going to be compared to Crawford after that performance, and he was likely to win that fight and do a much better job than Crawford. It's too bad we're not getting that fight. But look, Crawford looks great, and he's a very good fighter. There's no doubt about it. But honestly, what has he really proved as far as the level of opponent that he's beaten? Not much. If you're really keeping it real, it's not hating. Postal, I mean, good fighter, solid fighter, but how good is Postal? Honestly, how good is he?
He's pretty good, man. I mean, he knocked out Matisse. Well, he stopped Matisse and was really frustrating him with that style. And meanwhile, he couldn't even frustrate Crawford. It was Crawford the one that was frustrating him. So
he was Yeah, Postol was allowed to hold in that fight.
Well, he
I'm
shouldn't
known
have.
as being the European fight, as someone that loves the European fighters and the Eastern Europeans. They always give me stick for it. But Victor Postol is one guy I never really talked about much. I just thought he was average at best. I mean, his best win obviously was a good win against Lucas Matisse, but we've seen through the years Lucas Matisse, when it gets a bit hot in the kitchen, he's jumping out the window.
Well, listen, about Postol, he also... Was that?
Sorry, go ahead.
Just Postol had a good win over Hank Lundy. Postol had a good win over Hank Lundy, and what was that name? That Turkish guy that...
Lundy beat him, bro. Lundy beat him.
Man, I'll have to rewatch that fight because I watched it 3 years ago, but... I mean, I don't know, man. Listen.
He's gotten better.
You know what? We could go all around all night with this because Lomachenko too. I mean, somebody could say, well, who has he really beaten? I mean, we know what LP used to say about Lomachenko and Walters and about Walters. I mean, to me, the Walters win. You might think I'm crazy, but Lomachenko's win over Walters, that to me is like Terence Crawford's over Postol. I rate Postol highly. I think he was a pretty tricky guy, undefeated, good skills, very roach in the corner, and
you say that though, but when it came to cutting off the ring, because let's be real, Terence Crawford, it was you're going to fight to my way of fighting, or we're going to stink the joint out, and I don't really care about that anyway. We're still going to fight like that. So Postol had to go and chase the fight, and when he had to chase the fight and cut off the ring, he was lost. He was all over the place. His footwork was too slow. He didn't have an inside game. He only throws straight punches. Very Eastern European thing where they like to throw straight punches, not very good with the uppercuts and the short punches, the hooks and so on. And he showed that way. He needed to get inside and get on Crawford's shoulder, rough him up a bit because he was getting out jabbed and beaten from range. He had to get inside and rough Crawford up, but he couldn't do that because he didn't have the tools to do it. So well,
that brings us. It was
a good win, but nothing special.
That brings us to the case of, when somebody says what you just said, like, oh well, he looked slow, he looked this, but was it because that's the type of fighter he is, or was that because Crawford made him look that way? It's like when Pascal got beat by Hopkins and Teddy Atlas was saying, oh, Pascal didn't do this, Pascal didn't do that. Well, Hopkins didn't allow him to do it, so it's hard to tell at a certain point when we start over analyzing fights to say, well, was it because this guy was...
I think it's hard. I just think it's hard to impose a fighting style that you're used to, like for example, Postol. He's like Stu said, he's straight punches all the time. That's a Eastern European thing. But when you have your opponent who's, I mean, I hate to say running, but Crawford was running in that fight against Postol. It's kind of hard to sort of chase your opponent, and when you're chasing your opponent, it's harder to catch him. And Crawford, who was the faster guy, it would be easier for him to it's easier for a guy on the back foot to counter punch a guy that's coming forward, kind of like what Canelo was doing against Golovkin. Who's
definitely. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, that's a good
Crawford
point.
caught him with like 5 noteworthy counter punches in 12 rounds. Like, watch that fight and pay attention. He couldn't land shit.
Crawford was just so negative. Crawford was just so negative, and Postol was not used to that. Postol was used to some fighters coming onto him using his jab and his backhand, and keeping him distant, because Crawford got the early points in, and so Postol had to chase the fight. And when he had to chase the fight, it was just going horribly wrong for him because he just didn't know what to do. And like me and Decisive just said, the straight punches, if that's all you've got, and you get against a slick.
We don't know how good Postol is. Like that Matisse fight was a bit of a mirage, first and foremost, and second of all, he was looking sorry for himself early on in that fight, but the referee allowed him to clinch. It was a terrible, boring fight, and he just clinched Matisse and wore him out like that. He shouldn't have been allowed to clinch. He should have been warned for that and had points taken away. And maybe if he wasn't allowed, Matisse would have been the one fighting Terence Crawford. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, but here's...
Postol is not a proven fighter. We still don't know how good he is. We have to wait and see. And Hank Lundy, even though that wasn't a great Postol, he has gotten better. Hank Lundy beat Postol in Ukraine. So,
and Hank Lundy, I mean, he's dreadful. So.
Well, I will say this.
Exactly. So that wasn't.
I agree with you, Precise, about Postal. We still don't know how good he is, because I do agree with that Matisse fight was a bit of a mirage. But as for the holding, Matisse was lunging in too, because he had trouble with Postal's range, and he was lunging in just like Eubank was against Groves. And Postal did the right thing. I mean, it's not legal, but as long as the referee doesn't say anything and doesn't take a point away, hey, it's fair game, man.
Well, it wasn't really the same. I get your point, but it really wasn't the same sort of thing. He wasn't headbutting him. He wasn't grabbing a hold of him. Postal just used the Klitschko tactics, and whatever, it worked. It's great. But the thing is, he would have never been allowed to use those same tactics against someone like Crawford. So right then and there, we don't even have the same fighter. So we'll see how good Postal is. Time will tell. Kavaliauskas beat him in the amateurs, and I don't think that guy's all that good himself. So Postal, I agree with you that he was roughly on the level of Nick Walters, even though Walters was hyped. But then you look at the fight, and it was a boring fight. It was a terrible performance by Terence Crawford. The knockdowns were not legal knockdowns, and he ran from a light punching guy, and Lomachenko absolutely befuddled and stopped Walters. So even though it was the same sort of opponent, let's say, the performance was on a completely different level to Crawford. So you got to take that into account also.
I think Nicholas Walters is a harder fight than Postal.
Okay, yeah.
Possibly.
More,
I like.
Yeah, I think he's just got more to his game.
Yeah, Walters is war against Donaire.
Exactly, more dangerous, bigger puncher. Just has he has more arsenal basically, and I think the Lomachenko beating him was a better win than Postal, I'm afraid. Postal's a decent fighter, but let's not get carried away here.
I can agree with that. I think Walters looked great against against Donaire. He showed he had a good long jab, stuck that into Donaire's face, and then against Jason Sosa, which should have been a win for Walters, by the way, he was hammering Sosa to the body. So this is a guy who could fight long range or up close and really get some good leverage on close body shots. And Lomachenko just danced around him. And listen, layoff or no layoff, I don't know how many people could have done that to Nicholas Walters. So now real quick, Precise, you mentioned that guy, what's his name, the Latvian guy or Lithuanian?
Kavaliauskas?
Yeah, he's the guy who fought last night, right?
Yeah, he stopped Avaneysan, I believe, in 6 rounds.
You don't think highly of him?
You
want to see more?
No, I don't. He still has to prove a lot, but I don't see anything special about him. He looks like a tough dude that hits hard enough, but he's better than Lamont Peterson. He proved that, I think.
Yeah.
But you know, I was never high on Lamont Peterson. He was always a journeyman that was it a vacant title that he won or something? He should have lost his title against Garcia.
Really atrocious against Errol Spence, Lamont Peterson. Yeah. It was just pathetic.
It was like that Turkish guy that fought Eubank. The same kind of thing.
Well, listen, man.
There and took punches.
I like Lamont Peterson.
If you ever want to see the definition of a deer in a headlight, then just go back and watch Lamont Peterson.
Yeah, but I think you're gonna see a lot of people doing that against Errol Spence. I mean, the guy's just a fucking. Those body shots of his are sickening, man. You can just hear them.
Yeah, they are. But come on, man. What did Lamont Peterson do? He didn't do anything.
Well, he couldn't.
He stood there and took his beating. It was like, he's waiting for the shot to. He was waiting to get knocked out and taken out of there.
Well, listen. I mean, we'll see what happens with.
He had no chance of winning that fight. Not for 1 second of that fight did Lamont Peterson believe he could win.
No, I don't think. Well, I think from the first round he knew he wasn't going to win.
What is he doing in there with the world champ? What is he doing in there with the world champ?
Yeah, from the first round he knew he wasn't going to win. From the first round.
He's a very good fighter. Better fighter than Lamont Peterson.
Now, what's this about? Look, I'm going to put the record up for people that didn't see the fight. Jesus, I can't pronounce his goddamn name. Kavaliauskas from Lithuania. I thought he was from Latvia. I made a mistake there.
Same thing.
He beat same thing. David Avaneysan. He's the one who beat an old Shane Mosley and went 10 rounds against Peterson, or 12.
Gave him a tough fight, I thought.
It was a tough fight for Peterson, and Peterson was wearing those short shorts that don't, I mean, listen guys, we're not in the 50s anymore. Don't wear short shorts, all right? Just wear normal size trunks and do everyone a favor, all right? I don't want to go to sleep and dream, you know, have sweaty dreams about those shorts, all right? It's disgusting.
Or those giraffe legs.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
I thought the Hebrew Hammers performance was the worst I've seen this year, but
Oh yeah.
is up there.
That was last year actually. That was last year actually, technically.
Well, the Hebrew Hammers, is it been? Oh, good, yeah, but it's last year, yeah.
Yeah,
it was
December.
that bad. I can't remember when it was.
I mean, my God,
that guy's beat 20 people.
And he got on HBO, man. I mean, how many people want to get on HBO, and this guy gets a?
Because he's Jewish.
You think so?
And that's
They
right
wanted
after
a
he
Jewish
failed a drug test for roids. Like right after.
Oh, you see, hold on a second. Stu mentioned that he said that the Hebrew Hammer got on HBO because he was Jewish, and all of a sudden Catchnelo drops out. I think he knows he doesn't want to get involved in this debate. And let me tell you something, neither do I. So let's keep the race out of this. But what did you say, precisely?
Nothing to do with race. The fact is, it's like
true.
These channels, they need their hype jobs. They need a white hope. They need an African American hope. That's how they build things. They needed a Jewish guy. If this guy was become a big star, they'd have made loads of money. The Jews would have spent all them because they got a lot of money, and they're building him up. This guy should be nowhere near HBO. Come on, man. It's nothing to do with race. Let's keep it real here. Nothing to do with race. If that guy was just a normal guy fighter, he would be nowhere near HBO. They've built him up. They were talking about him like he was fucking Rocky Marciano.
I went to a Dimitri Salita fight at the Brooklyn Ballroom once, and let me tell you, man, the New York Jews, they love their boxing and they love their bums, man. They came out, they supported. It was nuts in there, man. So yeah, it's just they were just trying to tap into the American Jewish market. It is what it is, man. They do the same with Mexicans. They do the same. Yeah, it's always done like that with the Triple G catering to the Mexican crowd. It's the same thing.
Exactly. It's nothing to do with race. Or I'm not taking a pop at the Jews, but this guy, that's the only reason that he was anywhere near HBO.
Well, I'm
not even ESPN.
Go ahead.
No, I just agree. It's true. That's all.
Well, I wasn't saying this to protect necessarily the Jews. I was saying it more to protect Stu from the comments, the backlash from the comments.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't need protecting. I've got a lot of grief, mate. I'm used to it now.
Now that's the thing that because I'm relatively new to the YouTube boxing scene. It was Butcher the one who got me into it when we started BDA. So precise, you started on the you were on the YouTube scene since 2010, you said, or even longer?
2008 thereabout.
Jeez, Louise. And how about you, Stu?
I don't know. No, mind you, I've been on YouTube because I was a host of the Boxing Voice. So that was like 4.5, probably 5 years ago. I think, I'm not sure, 4 years ago. So around that time I've been on YouTube, but obviously shut my channel down because I had things going on in my life, and obviously there's more important things to put than boxing sometimes. And obviously I was getting a lot of grief, and I gave it, I shut my channel down to give myself a rest from it all. And I've enjoyed the piece, but it's always nice to come on here and talk boxing with you guys, do you know what I mean? Yeah,
it's good to talk boxing, man, and really keep it on the boxing. Reversely is asking, shout out to Reverse, he says, what are your thoughts on Shakur Stevenson? Anybody catch his fight last night?
I didn't, but I saw some of his previous fights, and he's got good athleticism, speed, ring IQ, I think. I think he's obviously just a child. He's learning a lot, but I see a lot of promise as long as he's promoted and brought up correctly. And Andre Ward is only maybe a mentor and not in any way, shape, or form a trainer. I think he'll do well.
Yeah, I agree with that. Stu, what about you, man?
Can you repeat that? Because it just cut out. I didn't hear the question.
Did you manage to catch Shakur Stevenson's fight last night?
No. Why, did he win?
Yeah, he won, but piggybacking off what Precise said,
I've seen a few of his fights. I've seen enough of him. He's obviously talented, but he could be another Chris Eubank Jr. in the waiting, if you get what I'm saying.
Well,
he's got a lot of holes in his game.
Right. Yeah, we'll never know until he actually fights somebody.
You know, so we'll see with this guy, because like I said, we get too hyped up about the Olympics. You know, all right, there's some great fights coming from the Olympics. Audley Harrison won a Olympic gold. Guy was only good in the pros.
Yeah, that's a
give him 20 fights. You got to give him 20 fights before we could honestly start criticizing him.
Mark Breland, really, he was Olympic gold medalist, a fantastic fighter, but never really. He got to a decent. Did it in the pros, not like he should have. For me, you know, sometimes the switch over doesn't suit certain fighters, and be with Shakur, when it gets to the pros and he's fighting these tough Mexicans and these Japanese fighters, I mean, it's a different ball game.
Yeah, man.
Bob Arum knows how to build prospects. He knows how to build fighters. He's in good hands, again, so long as Andre Ward doesn't teach him how to fight, but just sticks to the business side, he'll be fine, I think. And I think he and Conlon could be a great fight. Maybe when they will have had 15, 20 fights each, maybe then they could match him up.
I like the look of Conlon.
Yeah, same. I have the same opinion on Conlon as I do on Shakur Stevenson. Like, you see that there's something there, but they're still kids,
I think Conlon's a little bit more schooled at the moment than Stevenson. Stevenson's still quite raw, but still very talented.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Precise said, the guy's Shakur Stevenson's 20, 21? I mean, at this point, he still needs a whole bunch of fights before we can actually start evaluating him properly.
Yeah.
Because there's some people...
a little older. He seems a little bit more mature, but he still has a long way to go himself.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I've read some people criticizing Shakur Stevenson. They're saying, he doesn't look good. He's not knocking these guys out. Look, the guy's 20, 21. He's probably hasn't even grown into his grown man strength. Let's see how he looks. I mean, there's a lot of prospects that don't end up looking sensational right out of the gate. The ones that do, obviously, most of the time have power.
Chris Eubank Jr. wasn't knocking people out when he first started. If you look at his record, his first 5 or 6 fights, he probably only had 1 KO. 2 KOs or something. He wasn't really getting people out there. I think when you get KO power when you get man strength.
Exactly. Yeah.
Timing. Yeah.
Timing, turning over the punches.
Timing also, but timing's very hard to get right in a boxing ring. I mean, it's very hard to time someone clean on the button. There's a reason there's fighters out there that have got 40-odd fights, never been stopped. But they get beat, but never been stopped. There's clever fighters out there know what to look for, and it's hard to time someone clean on the button.
True.
And that's why he needs 20, 25 fights in order to work on that in the ring against guys that are going to push him, but that they're going to have to do a whole lot in order to beat him. Because the thing I like about Shakur Stevenson real quick is that, first of all, he did well in the Olympics. He didn't win the gold, but he medaled. He got a silver. And this guy, you look at him outside of the ring, he's always smiling. He's always, he looks like he's right out of high school. But then you see him in the ring, and he's got some grit inside him, although he hasn't been pushed yet. But I did see that video that Deontay's Nation had posted about, what's his name? Devin Haney, who's another prospect, sparring against Shakur Stevenson. And Shakur Stevenson was really digging down, going to the body, staying right there, and he was the one that actually outlasted Devin Haney in that fight. Haney was doing a lot of clinching, a lot of stalling. Like, you could tell his gas tank couldn't compare to Shakur Stevenson. So let's see what Shakur Stevenson does. Let him grow up, get a little more muscle, maybe go up a couple of divisions. Learn, like Precise said, learn to get the timing right, get the leverage correctly, better technique, and we'll see what happens. But these people that are criticizing him for not stopping guys, hey, it's essentially, like Precise said, the guy's a kid. So let's cut him a little slack. Last comments, guys, before we go.
Was it Precise? Was it you that did the video of his amateur loss? Was it you did the study video of it?
No, I remember criticizing him for crying like a little baby, but that's about it.
Yeah. well, I watched the video because I thought he won the fight at the Olympics, but then someone did a video showing you the the fight, and it was a lot closer than what I thought it was, and it could have gone either way. So I thought it might have been you, because I know you do very good videos like that.
Well, thank
You've convinced me. You've convinced me before. After watching your study, after watching your videos, I'm thinking, yeah, fucking hell, I didn't see that in real time.
Did I make you any money?
Bet on boxing, mate, because it's too fucking corrupt.
Good job. No, that's true. Good point.
Yeah, you gotta be.
And it's a sin.
It's a sin.
I mean, can you imagine putting 20 grand on Kovalev Ward 1, Kovalev to win, and that happens to you?
Oof.
Oh man.
I bet somebody killed a stripper.
You'd be shooting at the casino, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I bet somebody killed a stripper that night, or a hooker. Some guy that bet 50,000. He must have killed somebody that night.
God.
We gotta look that up. We gotta look that up and find that out. Well, listen, guys. I don't know if the Caleb Plant fight is ended already, but I want to catch the fight. So, first of all, thanks to everyone that was on the chat room, who joined us as always. You know, Kuma's Deception, Fam Molly's, Tim Sicklers, Michael Stock, Tubes, Asian Undercover, or Undercover Asian, I should say, Boxing Style, Jahobi Mixe, Nicola Ferrari was in there as well, Brandon White, Punch for Pound. And there was a high reverse lead. There was a high discussion from all topics going in there. I also want to thank our panelists as always. I want to thank Stu. I want to thank Hamed, who was here, Cameron Gillion. I want to thank Precise Puncher. By the way, Stu, do you have a boxing channel that you want to plug, or you still haven't restarted that yet?
Well, I'm on this channel. Yeah, I haven't started. I'll let you know when I start doing it again.
All right. Fantastic. And don't forget to check out Cameron Gillion's Twitter, where he puts all his work, all his articles. We're going to link that in the description. Don't forget to check out Precise Punch's channel as well, the legendary channel. Everybody knows about it. Who else has a channel? Hamed doesn't have a channel yet. So yeah, that's about it, guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the comments. You always informative, and you always answer my questions when I can't remember a name or a fact. Enjoy the fight. Well, I know some of you don't even want to watch the fights, but those of you that are gonna watch the fights, let's cross our fingers and hope we get a good one, or at least a couple of, or at least something. You know, at least a dirty fight or something that ends in a disqualification or a riot or something, but something fun. I think we deserve it.
Is it Brandon Rios, isn't it? Brandon Rios and Garcia.
Rios and Garcia, Alexander versus Ortiz, and on the
Brandon Rios is atrocious. I mean, this guy, he's god awful. Nothing about Brandon Rios impresses me. He's just going to be a walking punch bag again. He's going to kill the few brain cells he's got left in his head, and you know, I just don't see the point of this fight. Danny Garcia, he sure loves to bring someone out of the graveyard to fight him, doesn't he? I mean,
it's an unnecessary fight.
Who's next? I'm sure he's trying to get Prince Nassim Hamid back in the ring.
It would not surprise me, man. These fucking guys at the PBC. I mean, it's Danny Garcia gets to fight whoever he wants, man. He gets to fight whoever he wants. He could fight his mother said. I wouldn't be surprised if he ever fights his father, you know, in a professional fight, man. That sounds like something they would do. I want to remind
Danny
people.
Garcia is he's the sort of guy who'd get away with fighting Ronda Rousey.
Oh yeah, and people. There would be some people that would give him props for knocking her out.
Yeah, they would.
All right, now listen, guys. I forgot to say, don't forget to subscribe to our regular channel, BDA. This is BDA Live. Subscribe to this one if you want to keep up to, you want to stay up to date with all the podcasts. We're gonna be doing another one during the week. Again, I want to thank our panelists. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for always keeping it entertaining, and we'll see you on the next one, folks. Take care.
Yeah, see that, bro.
Later, guys.